he was traveling from Elliot towards Gala. Ndikandika further divulged that during the time an oncoming vehicle approached him, which when he tried to avoid the accident when his car overturned. In that aforesaid accident, Ndikandika sustained injuries. Eastern Cape Hawks spokesperson Avela Fumba says the court further declared him unfit to possess a firearm and there was no option for a fine in the matter.
During the claim processing, RAF picked up discrepancies between documents that were submitted by Ndikandika and the police. RAF repudiated the claim and referred the matter to the Hawks for thorough probe. A comprehensive investigation by the Hawks revealed that, through misrepresentation by Ndikandika, RAF nearly suffered a loss of more than 1.6 million rand. Ndikandika made numerous court appearances until his sentencing by the East London Regional Court on 14 February 2025.
KwaZulu-Natal MSC for Human Settlements, Siboniso Duma, says 12 portions of state-owned land around the eThekwini Metro have been identified to build houses for the victims of the 2022 floods. Thousands of people were left homeless. Others have been sheltered in temporary residential units, while some rebuilt where their informal houses were washed away. Duma attributed the delay in the construction of the houses to disruptions by leaders who mobilized some communities to stop certain contractors. He was speaking at a media briefing in Durban.
We are aware that there are leaders who are meeting with Ratepayers Association and individuals in communities as part of mobilizing them against the building of houses in certain areas, and it's something that we must fight upon. This is tantamount to attempting to introduce Group Areas Act, which enforce segregation of communities, and we are not going to allow this as this government. We have seen the disruption of the construction of permanent housing, especially for the victims of flood that ravaged KZN in April 2022. As we move forward, we shall expose leaders who are not only mobilizing communities against the department, but are also violating the Constitution.
The man accused of the murder of anti-gang unit detective Colonel Charles Kinya says he got a message that unit's General Andre Lincoln wanted to assassinate him. Nafiz Modek is continuing with his testimony in the Western Cape High Court. 13 other accused persons have also been charged with Kenya's murder. Lincoln and his colleague General Jeremy Very have been mentioned several times by Modek during the trial. He has accused Very of corruption and of extorting money from him. The murder case involving a widow to a Metro police officer in Ekurhuleni, Banelis Kosana, has been postponed to Friday for further investigations. The wife of the officer, Sibungile Tlabini, is alleged to have arranged a hit on her husband, who was shot dead in cold blood in Kwatema, Ekurhuleni, during the early hours of February the 7th. One of the suspects appeared alongside the widow after she was arrested last week Friday, a day before her husband's funeral. City of Ekurhuleni spokesperson Zweli Dlamini.
To actually look at a PR exercise that we must embark on that is aimed at educating people about the importance of protecting the men and women in blue. Banele is killed hardly a month after the killing of another officer in Tembisa, traffic warden and the MPD. So that tells you that there is a problem. The consequences could be different and the issues behind the killings could be different. But the bottom line is that we have lost members of the EMPD, and that actually minimizes our strength in terms of fighting crime.
Oil pipeline infrastructure in southern Russia has been hit overnight in Ukrainian drone strikes. The pipeline takes oil from Kazakhstan to a Russian Black Sea port. Meanwhile, Ukraine briefly imposed some power cuts. The BBC's Deni Abehard has the details.
The Caspian Pipeline Consortium said the attack had disabled its biggest pumping station in Russia, in the Krasnodar region. It didn't specify the extent of the damage, but said oil continued to be pumped through the pipeline, albeit at reduced levels. The company, which is part owned by some Western oil majors like Chevron, says its workers prevented an oil spill. The local governor has not mentioned the attack. Separately, Ukraine had to introduce power cuts in the Kiev and Dnipropetrovsk regions due to the latest Russian attacks.
Recapping the top story, the East London Regional Court in the Eastern Cape has sentenced a 59-year-old man to 5 years direct imprisonment for lodging a false road accident fund claim. I am on Dilambana for SFM News. Headlines at 3:30.
In your sports this hour, Nedbank Cup draw tonight. Sasha excited to help Stormers, and what a doping process criticised. More details at 3:30.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
We're in the security industry. Every month we save 1,488 Rand with OUTsurance. Just having made the switch from our previous service provider to OUTsurance has allowed us to put another vehicle onto our fleet.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care. At SAFM, we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection, and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness, and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other, and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady and you are my man.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Particularly on a Monday, when we ask you what moves the National Pulse, I just wonder what you think, because so much happens overnight, isn't it, over that weekend? Well, my name's Ashraf Garda, and whether you are listening to us from, Durban or Durbanville or somewhere else, either way, welcome to the show, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It depends where you are. The weather's different. Some people are basking in sunshine. Other parts of the eastern parts of the country, particularly Gauteng, all they can see is rain. So much for sunny South Africa. It's all just rain, rain, and rain. Maybe it's good for this time of the year anyway, but it means you can't really socialize on the outside. Right. Love to know what your thoughts are. You can connect 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, you know the options. Save the number, but you have the option to text or to voice note us 0614 104 107. And then, as always, do tweet us on Elon Musk's platform, on the X Factor. Do tweet using the hashtag The National Pulse, and you can call me, or rather you can tag me, Ashraf Garda, and do tag SAFM Radio. We're going to talk about many things. We're going to chat first up. Understand the city of Ekurhuleni, they've got some huge debt issues with regard to Eskom. So I'll tell you what, we're going to get to that in a moment. And yes, we will talk about developments regarding Ukraine. And yes, we will talk about South Africa's metro struggling. And we will talk about the fact that there's huge problems with regard to a borehole that's caused a problem that actually has ground the Gautrain one entire leg to a halt. And we will talk about the death or the killing of what is called the Imam Mohsin Hendricks. We'll chat to Dr. Faisal Suleiman about that later on. Let's to consider, right? Let's get to the issue of Ekurhuleni now. Understand that there's been a public notice from Eskom warning the city of Ekurhuleni about extended power cuts due to unpaid electricity bills. So basically two things. You haven't paid us, and we're warning you publicly that we're going to cut your power. Now, I understand there's also been an issue where the city's MMC for Finances confirmed that they've lodged a dispute on the amount of money actually owed. and as a result of that, they feel that perhaps some of the Eskom's public pronouncements are not in good faith. Either way, how do we solve the issue, isn't it? Jongi Zizwe Dlabati is the MMC for Finance in the city of Ekurhuleni. Appreciate your time, MMC. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
No, thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity, and good afternoon to the SAFM listeners.
Thank you. I think there's many things we can talk about, but perhaps the most important one to the residents of the Ekurhuleni region is like, are we going to have our power cut off?
Well, firstly, let me start by assuring the residents in the city of Ekurhuleni that we are not anticipating any power cuts off anytime soon. Of course, we have noted with concerns, and unfortunately so, the public notice made by Eskom with regards to the outstanding amount that is due to them. I must say that on the 23rd of January, the senior management of the institution had a meeting with the Eskom management to discuss a number of issues, including, amongst others, the outstanding debt. We have pledged our commitment as a city of Ekurhuleni to continue to service our current debt, despite the financial constraint that we are facing as an institution. And the city is not immune from the current financial challenges that are faced by municipalities. But safe to say that we have pledged our commitment to continue to service our account. I did inquire subsequently with the senior leadership of the institution, and they did brief me that MMC, we do have an overdue account of about 1.6 billion, and of course the other amount that will come from Eskom. We are currently servicing the account, paying almost 425 million every week as a way of trying to get closer to the full amount. And of course, as I said, Ashraf, that we are operating under constrained financial conditions with competing needs, in particular the creditors that are providing services within the city of Ekurhuleni. I must indicate, though, that in that meeting of the 23rd, the issue of a disputed amount, particularly interest, was raised with the management of Eskom, because the city does feel that there are discussions that need to take place as to how Eskom arrived at that particular amount. And that is a subject of a discussion. We were surprised, therefore, as I said, that there's a public notice when, in fact, we agreed that there should be communication platforms where from time to time we engage. In fact, post the meeting with the senior management, there's nothing wrong for Eskom to actually escalate to myself as an MMC of Finance, and subsequently to the executive mayor. And that is what we are pleading for.
All right,
we are not denying the current account.
Yeah.
We accept and we pledge commitment, but where there is a dispute, it is within our right to engage Eskom.
Fair enough, yeah.
Amount.
So you're saying Eskom claims that you owe them 1.6 billion rands. Have I got that right? Okay.
No. In their public notice, they're saying that we owe them 2.3 billion.
Okay.
Now, of that 2.3 billion, 1.6 is the amount that has slightly gone over above the 30 days, right?
Okay.
But within that remainder of the amount, there is an interest of about 200 million or so, which is a subject of a dispute. And as I said to you, we are paying Eskom around 424 million almost every week. In fact, the divisional head and the CFO has guaranteed me that even this week there will be another 425 that is going to be paid.
All right.
Yes.
So if I understand you, fine, I understand there's certain areas of dispute, but that by and large, what you're owing currently, you pay within the 30 days. So you don't have a massive arrears problem like a backlog of about a few years. You don't have that problem, right? Now,
No.
Right. Why do you think then it took Eskom to go public on this issue with issuing a public notice? Like, I'm just trying to understand why would they have done that? What provoked them to do just that?
Well, it could be that it's part of their credit control measures and granted. But the point I'm making is that we had a meeting with them and there was a commitment to say, let's follow the communication channel between ourselves in an attempt to resolve the matter around the outstanding amount. So our view is that we needed to exhaust that. Of course, in an event that we don't find each other, probably Eskom, within their rights, they could have issued the notice. But our bone of contention is that just now on the 23rd, we had an engagement with you. In fact, Eskom issued a statement to say that it's a highly successful engagement, which is likely to find a long-term sustainable solution, not only on the issue of the outstanding amount, including other electricity-related matters that we as a city are raising against Eskom. And we are not going on public to speak about those issues because we believe that we belong into the same government. Of course, they are an entity, we are a local government, but we are connected with the provision of electricity.
All right. What then, you said up front that you're very confident there will be no power cuts, right? So what gives you that level of confidence then?
No, we continue to pay the 425 million to Eskom as part of our commitment to them. Secondly, we will continue to engage them to find an amicable solution on the issue of the disputed interest. And thirdly, we will strive by all means to make sure that subsequent current accounts are being paid by us.
Okay. Since their public announcement, have you chatted to Eskom and what has come out of that conversation, if anything, that you can?
Well, I've just spoken with the city manager today. We are in the process of securing a meeting with them, so we will meet with them during the course of this week.
And until then, they won't do anything nasty to you then, at the moment.
As I said, we don't anticipate any power disconnection, and hence we have issued a statement to Ekurhuleni citizens not to panic.
Okay. What about? The broader issue, which is something you said in your intro as well, that that you are struggling with money. So there's a cash flow problem, right? Now, interesting enough, later on we'll be chatting to Professor Ivan Turok about South Africa's metros and their poor performances, where they completely struggling, cash-struck, they can't maintain themselves, right? What do you think? What is the problem with your metro? And how do you solve it? Because ideally, situation it's not just about Eskom. So many metros, so not just yours but others. It's like ditto. There's so many problems that some of the most basic things can't be done, and what it means, therefore, is the citizens are compromised.
Yeah, we have dissected the problem since one has taken over the portfolio of finance, and I can tell you the very first challenge we are having is the entrenched culture of non-payment, both at the level of household and to some extent business. And we are beginning to engage communities across the city of Ekurhuleni to make them understand the culture of payment and the importance of paying for services thereof. Secondly, there's been a lapse of focus on the revenue collection and revenue enhancement. And we now have a revenue enhancement strategy approved and a plan. So we are now working on the implementation in that regard. And the third component really is the issue of enforcing credit control to make sure that we collect.
Okay. What about, in terms of this culture of non-payment, right? Look, you may get the odd person who's just messing your brains around and they just don't feel like paying, and they got enough money to pay you 200,000-300,000 in one go if you really want the money, right? But I think for the majority, be it the residents, we live in in a country that is struggling financially as a country, and it filters down with the numbers of unemployed people. People are struggling, right? And then even businesses are struggling. They may be there for profit, but they have serious cash flow problems. And if they can hold on for a month not paying you by trying to then buy goods which they need to sell, that's what they're going to do. What I'm trying to say is, how much of empathy do you have for them and their problems? And those are real problems, just like you've got a real problem on not being able to pay Eskom.
Yeah, so we have accepted that the economic conditions are quite difficult, and that is why, for instance, around August, we approved a debt rehabilitation policy. In essence, it allows those that are owing us a debt that is way above 12 months to come forward, apply and qualify for 70% immediate debt write-off. And the remainder of the debt gets then to be subjected into a 36 months payment arrangement, literally 3 years. So we are giving a relief. By the way, both on household, and we're taking off 100% interest on the businesses and subject them into a 36 months payment period. So we have already provided a policy that gives a relief. In addition to that, Ashraf, we do have the indigent support policy, where basically you come and apply on the strength of the threshold that we have set on the disposable income. which is about less than 8,200 and 500, you actually qualify for indigent. We give you basic services, and of course, overconsumption, you begin to pay for that. So I'm just saying there are instruments policy-wise that we have put in place to try and give a relief. For instance, I can tell you that there's about 4,333 of our households that have already come forward to apply for the debt relief. And once we sort out our system, they will then qualify for 70%. Okay. So we are doing that. But the last point I want to
very quickly in 10 seconds.
Yes, those that are able to pay, they should pay, and don't cover themselves behind those who are unable to pay. So we must separate those who can and those who can't pay for services. But there are mechanisms for them to come forward.
Point taken. And I think your offer is very generous in by and large. I appreciate your time, Jongi Zizwe Dlabati, the MMC for Finance in the city of Ekurhuleni. Bottom line, despite the very public notice from Eskom, the city of Ekurhuleni says they're talking to them. They don't expect any cutoffs at all, which is good news if you come from that region. Let's talk about the other region, the Ukraine, right after this.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned, and almost 100,000 businesses trust Outsurance.
I'm in tourism. I'm running a guest house here. When I switched over to Outsurance, it was very simple and convenient. I used the savings to subsidize my solar installations. Switching to Outsurance was one of the best decisions I made insurance-wise, yes.
For your business insurance, contact Outsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer in FSP. T's and C's online.
S3 and Lorna Maseko are adding flavor to your Wednesday evenings. Lorna invites you on a journey of discovering new ways of transforming South African pantry staples into delectable and budget-friendly meals. From reimagining traditional South African dishes to infusing global inspirations, Lorna's inventive recipes and seasoned cooking tips inspire creativity and will empower viewers to navigate the kitchen with savvy resourcefulness. Tune into Lorna's Pantry, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices can make our children sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, which could lead to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they age. We must protect them from drinks high in sugar. Demand a stricter health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So amongst the many pronouncements that we've had from the US President Donald Trump has been one of them, of course, South Africa. The other one has been the issue of Palestine, Israel, and the other has been the Ukraine, besides other issues like Canada and Alaska and Mexico. And where do I stop? But interestingly enough, what has happened now is the issue of Ukraine has been escalated to the point where almost it seemed like there was attrition, but nothing developing in the last year. Suddenly things are happening. So let's find out. We understand the EU leaders are converging in Paris today to discuss solutions. On the one hand, the United States have decided to kickstart its own peace process by having direct talks with Russia. They're doing so in Saudi Arabia. Now, the European and the Ukrainian officials are being concerned about being sidelined by the pace of Washington in these peace talks. Now, what do we make of all of this? The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made it clear that nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine can happen, and there can only be peace if Ukraine's sovereignty is secured. I mean, that makes sense to me. But let's find out where we go next with this. Professor John Keicher, who is the former research director of the Department of Politics and International Studies at the University of Cambridge. With us, Prof. Keicher, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse. Prof. Keicher, do we have you there? We may have just lost him for a second. I think there could just be a connectivity issue. Let's see if we can do that. Let me just remind you, someone saying, I was listening to your interview with Helen Zille last week and then vote DA from Tapela. Okay, that's a nice way of lobbying. It's like, that's it. The issue of... okay, I think we do now have Prof. Keicher back on the line with us. Prof. Keicher, do we have you there, right? Prof. Keicher, hi. Okay, for some reason or the other, we are battling while he's there to be able to get him live. There are issues. Let me just play some of the... if I can play... No, we'll do that. Yeah, there's a couple of comments about taxation, and remember the budget speech. The budget speech issue is going to happen soon in terms of Wednesday, right?
Income tax, which I know they will do, is so unfair. Increasing the income tax should be the last resort. South Africans are withdrawing from their two ports, not out of love, out of wanting to travel to Dubai. We're doing it to pay our bills. And yet these people who have all the benefits just want to increase income tax. No.
Okay, that's one point. Let's see if we're having some problem. We have to just reboot and sort out connectivity, Professor John Keicher, right? We'll get to that in just a moment. In the meantime, let's get your thoughts. If you wish to make a quick call, you can do so. There's a quick WhatsApp. Text message is most welcome, or voice note, 0614 104 107. And the broad question is, what for you moves the national pulse? Okay, we think we're okay now with Prof. Keicher. Thanks for connecting with us. We have you live now, right, Prof. Keicher? Prof. Keicher, do we have you there? No, we do not. There's clearly some issue. In many ways, that sort of issue reflects the type of logjam that is created when you have these negotiations between countries all putting up their positions. You just can't get sorted out. Okay, we'll have to see. I'm looking at keys. We'll try and sort it out as soon as we can. In the meantime, it doesn't stop you commenting as well. So if you have any thoughts, you can certainly add your comments right away. Okay, what I can say is, let me just tell you what else is, besides what else is coming up, let me tell you something that is so interesting in terms of what happened over, the weekend. You certainly saw, I'm sure you did, you saw the protesters protesting for responding to the issue around Donald Trump, right, and his call for people to be able to move to the USA, those Afrikaners in particular who are feeling aggrieved. But did you find it strange when one of the banners said, "Let's make South Africa great again"? I'll talk about that in just a sec. I think we're okay now with Prof. Keicher. Thanks for connecting, Prof. Keicher. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Hello, Ashraf. I'm not actually the prof you're referring to. I'm another prof.
Okay, so what have I got? So maybe just give me your quick title very quickly then, your own bio.
I'm Professor Ivan Turok from the University of the Free State. I was going to talk to you about...
Oh, I see. No, that comes up later on. Okay, that comes up. We're supposed to speak to you in about 10 minutes time. This is crazy. It's Monday. It's crazy. And, I'm just trying to think. And of course, we're going to talk about South Africa's poor metros. This could be one of the reasons that you get your lines all crossed up. Anyway, right. Okay, we will connect just now. Let me then get back to just the point that I made about... So did you see that when these protesters, supporters of the Donald Trump position... Amongst the many things they said, the two things that stood out, one is they sang the old national anthem, Die Stem, in full. Now, that means it's not the current one. It's the old one, in full, with full gusto. Okay, that's one. And then that banner they had, "Let's make South Africa great again." It's a question that I asked on my Twitter or X platform to say, what is, if you're saying let's make South Africa great, that's fine. I talk about Champion South Africa daily, but do you say let's make South Africa great again? So when was South Africa great? In this context, was it the period of apartheid South Africa? Was it 1990, 94, just thereafter? No connection with the Mandela era, because all the symbols reflect the South Africa of that bygone era. So let's make South Africa great again, really, bluntly, blatantly, is a reflection on people who are hearkening after or yearning for a bygone era. That doesn't mean they may not have any issues now. I understand that. But to base your entire campaign on saying, let's make South Africa great again, is a massive rewind that I don't think we should have a part of. And honestly speaking, neither should you. Right, we'll sort out all the lines that we've had the problems with. Let's get to the news now. It's 3:30 years on Della Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, a corruption case against the ANC's Amatole Regional Secretary Thembaletu Terry-Ntutu has been withdrawn at Mthatha High Court in the Eastern Cape today. The East London Regional Court in the Eastern Cape has sentenced a 59-year-old man to 5 years direct imprisonment for lodging a false road accident fund claim. In January 2016, Solomzi Ndigandiga submitted a claim stipulating he was involved in a motor vehicle accident while he was travelling from Elliot towards Gala. And former President Thabo Mbeki has congratulated the newly elected African Union Commission chairperson and his deputy. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, an update from Gautrain. No trains running between Rosebank and Park Station due to an illegal drilling issue. A replacement bus service is in operation. The N12 westbound in Germiston has a crash reported before Edenvale exit. In Bedfordview, the N3 northbound has a crash before Giluli's interchange, causing heavy traffic and delays in both directions. And the N12 R24 westbound has heavy traffic reported towards the N3 south ramp at Giluli's interchange. The N12 westbound in Benoni has a crash reported before Snake Road, and the N4 Witbank Highway eastbound in Pretoria has a crash near Simon Vermeulen Road. In KZN, on the N2, sporadic community unrest reported north of Pongola. You're asked to expect delays as well as diversions during the protest, and please do check before travel. The N3 southbound in Howick has a truck crash reported near Tweedy exit. The left lane is closed, and the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N1 inbound queuing towards Brackenfell Boulevard and Baden-Powell Drive in Muizenberg has sand reported on the carriageway at Coastal Park. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Tumi. So last week we spoke about the last 16 in the Nedbank Cup. We now have 8 teams left, but who are they going to play against each other?
Yeah, we're going to find out today. Yes, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, the draw for the Nedbank Cup quarterfinals is tonight, and there will be no restrictions or seedings to the draw, with the first team out of the hat to play at home against the next in the first tie or so on. And there's still confusion around the Royal AM situation as it's still unresolved. They still need to play their first round tie against Milford, and the winner is due to meet Sekhukhune United in the second round, and the quarterfinals ties are due to be played on the weekend of the 7th to the 9th of March. So more pressure on the league because they're also running out of calendar dates for the rescheduled matches, and Royal AM is also supposed to face Richards Bay tomorrow, and if postponed it will mean that they are 7 games behind. So I don't know. I really don't know how this one is going to pan out because it needs to be solved ASAP. And we are just waiting to hear a word from the PSL how they're going to deal with this Royal AM. For me personally, I think it's just taking way too long.
I think they're going to just have to annul the results, isn't it? I mean, you can't have another team replacing them in March when the season ends two months later.
Absolutely
or whatever.
Not.
So they'll just, well, I don't know what the rules are, but basically bottom line, you'll play with one team less this season. And the teams that have played them, and this is subject to, you may know the rules better than me, will get the walkover results. The results as it
should be like that.
The others will get walkovers, yeah.
But I guess we'll just have to wait and see how things pan out. Meanwhile, some great news. Rock Nation Sport has announced the signing of Cape Town City's Emile Witbooi. The 16-year-old made headlines last year for being invited for a month-long evaluation with Chelsea's under-18 side in England. And there were also reports that other English Premier League sides wanted him over too. And obviously, he's joining the likes of Vinicius Jr. and Kevin De Bruyne, who are also under that very same agency, so the future is bright for the young chap. Elsewhere, Manchester United coach Ruben Amorim says that their only solution right now is to start from scratch. The Red Devils lost 1-0 to Tottenham Hotspur yesterday, leaving them 15th on the log with a -7 goal difference, with just 4 wins from Amorim's 14 top-flight games in charge. And Amorim says that perhaps a major overhaul at Old Trafford with a number of senior stars being allowed to leave the club could just do the trick for them.
we need to stop focusing on the big picture. It's not the moment to do that. Just focus on the next game. Let's do everything to win some games to finish the season, and then think in the big picture. In this moment, it's just to try to stay with the players healthy, to recover some players, and focus on what we have to do in the next game, and that is our goal. In this moment, is like survive, is to think in the small things, to improve the small things from this game for the next game, and not even look at the table, the schedule, nothing of that. Of course, I have to, because we'll have a lot of games. We have 3 competitions with a small squad in the moment. That part is my part, but the players, everyone in Carrington, just focus on the next game, the next training, and that is our goal.
Ashraf, all I can say to you is, I'm sorry.
All I can tell you now is there are many Liverpool supporters listening right now, and they are laughing. And they are teasing all those Man United fans. But on a serious note, I'm a bit disturbed by his comments. They've got problems. I mean, the league table suggests that. That's a given. But to almost say, let's like forget the season and just look at one game at a time, that means he's like checked out. And if you checked out, then why can't the players check out? And just effectively what he's saying is played 20 friendly matches now between the end of the season. Now, and I mean, you can't do that. You have to deal with the cards that you have dealt with right now and make things happen. I'm not saying they're going to win anything. They're still promising he's going to win the league in 3 years' time. So let's see about that, okay? That's another conversation. Yeah. But for now, to almost check out is dangerous.
Perhaps he's not checking out per se. He's just saying that do not expect miracles.
Well, his results have checked out, that's sure.
Well, in rugby, Sasha Feinberg Mgomezulu says that he's confident that he can contribute to the Stormers' URC playoff charge as he nears a return from injury, despite a 30-23 loss to the Lions at Ellis Park in round 11, leaving John Dobson's men's 10th on the URC log. The Stormers remain within striking distance of the top 8, and with just 7 games remaining, the Cape Townians must claim vital points on the road, starting with the North-South derby against Vodacom Bulls at Loftus Versfeld on the 1st of March. And then in tennis, world number 5, Jessica Pegula believes that the handling of high-profile doping cases involving Jannik Sinner and Iga Swiatek has shown that the process is completely broken. Jannik Sinner's long doping saga came to an end on Saturday after he agreed to a 3-month ban from tennis. So basically, the world number 1 admitted partially responsibility for team mistakes, which led to him twice testing positive for traces of costable in March last year. And I think for me, Ashraf, when I read that statement, I was just like, okay, he agreed to take a 3-month ban. Was there a negotiation in the process of it all?
So what was that?
Clearly, it seems like it if he has agreed to it. And for me, I understand why other players are feeling that it's unfair. And I think, especially when it comes to drugs in sport, it has to be a black and white thing. It's either you have tested positive for a banned substance or not, regardless of if it was your fault or not.
So has he confessed that he's a sinner?
He says it was partially his responsibility because he wasn't very thorough. I do know that he did let go of his physio afterwards, but still, like, it's a banned substance in your system.
Okay, let's see where that story goes. Yeah. So he's out for 3 months till the French Open, I would think. How convenient is that? All for that for those remaining three Grand Slams, right? Well timed.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
We're in the private security industry, and by switching to OUTsurance, we save 785 rand a month. It's an extra tank of fuel, it's extra reward money that we pay our officers. When it comes to insurance, OUTsurance is our security company.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
V up your February with great value deals from Vodacom Business. Meet the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra featuring integrated Galaxy AI. Get it on a Red Business 1.5 gig plan for only 1,539 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 69 Rand extra per month and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
The Mangaung Metro Municipality is hosting an investment summit to bring investment to Bloemfontein. The summit will take place on 19 and 20 February at the City Hall and aims to bring together different economic role players from across the country and abroad. To be part of the summit or for more info, call 073 184 8972 or send an email to summit@mangaung.co.za. Mangaung, at the heart of it all.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, now we can talk to Professor Ivan Turok, Distinguished Research Fellow in the Equitable Education and Economies Research Division of the Human Sciences Research Council, which is the HSRC. Prof. Turok, I've got my right person, right?
You have indeed.
There we are. Right, now we're talking to you under this broad umbrella of, why are South Africa's metros, what informs their poor performances? There's a sense that across the board, there are very few exceptions, and certainly most of the bigger metros all absolutely struggling with really underperforming as metros, and that impacts upon delivery to every one of us as citizens. So what's your initial thought on that?
Well, what we've tried to do is to move beyond guesswork by trying to put some hard numbers on the scale and the performance of our metros, because we've been operating in the dark until we've managed to compile this new data set which gives us hard figures to go by. So what we've done is to do two things essentially. One is to track the performance of the 8 metros separately and in comparison to the rest of the country. We've also unpacked their economic performance into a key distinction between the export base of urban economies and the local services, those that circulate resources as against those that generate additional resources. And here we find quite a striking pattern of moving in the wrong direction. In other words, rather than growing our economic base of our cities, we are growing the local resources, the retail, the hairdressing, the local bank branches, the circulation of resources rather than the generation of additional resources. And that's quite a worry.
So in terms of the results, I mean, you talk about resources, so and therefore that impacts on productivity directly. I mean, can you tell us more now that you've got some of the hard figures?
Yes. So that the jobs is pretty static is the message, that the economies are standing still, which is really no good at all, because these are the places that are growing their population. Bear in mind that people are moving to the cities to look for opportunities, livelihoods and incomes. If the economies are static, that means unemployment is growing in these places. So it's a real wake-up call, I think, for national government, not just to leave it up to the metros. We know there are political instabilities and other mismanagement and problems at metro governance, but we think national government needs to take this more seriously, because basically 2/3 of South Africa's economy lies in the cities. These are the engine rooms, right, of our national economy. If they are stuttering and struggling, then the whole country is going to suffer.
And what absolutely, and I think we have, right? How then do you move from, what you talk about static to a very productive metro?
I think we think they're at the heart of it. Well, there are many factors, of course, but at the heart of it are 2 key dimensions. The first is infrastructure. We've got to invest more in new and expanded infrastructure, and we've got to upgrade and maintain our existing infrastructure. That's the key plank, right? The road network, the water systems, electricity networks, the sanitation, and so on. The second and related dimension to that is around governance and the stability of our metros. We need to work harder on that to get coalitions that are viable, that have a long-term view of investment in infrastructure, that are not going to steal the money, that are basically concerned about the long-term future of the economy of these precious places in our country.
Okay, good term governance I think is a given in terms of is something we all yearn for. The other one we yearn for is your point about infrastructure, but that means money. There's not a day, I can tell you, and I know that the budget speech is coming up on Wednesday, there's not a day in the last week or two that some department, their default answer, like how rugby and football managers talk about injuries as a reason why they're not winning. Well, in this case here, the default answer is like, we have no money. So
yeah,
how do we work around that?
Really important part. Well, so what's special about cities is that they have a tax base, right? So we want to strengthen the link between the accountability to ratepayers in the cities and the spending on relevant infrastructure. Because in principle, if you get the virtuous circle working well, the economy grows, they generate more taxes, they invest in the infrastructure for the future, that attracts more private investment, that creates more jobs, and the whole thing works in a beautiful sort of smooth machine. Unlike national government departments, unlike provinces who have no tax base, the cities have the potential to look after themselves.
But I mean, that would mean what? Ensuring that the tax base is broad enough or large enough and deep enough, right? And that they themselves are not compromised, which many feel even now, because many of these communities within these cities with these tax bases find that themselves are struggling and they can't pay much more than what they can pay right now in some form of taxation or the other, whether it's direct or whether it's through rates.
That's right. It's not very easy, but the theory is simple. That's what I'm trying to convey. If we understand the principles here, that there is a tax base, you need to cultivate that tax base. You need to persuade people who can afford to pay to contribute, even if it's only a fraction of what the cost of the service is. The principle of paying, over time, as they get better off, they will pay more. And you need to ensure that the upper end of the tax bracket are also paying a fair contribution to the provision of services. And that requires the political leaders, to stand up and to say to taxpayers, look, we're going to deliver the services you need if you pay. This is a contract, a social contract that we need to strengthen at the city level. Encourage our leaders to recognize, and mustn't just go to national government for handouts. They must look in the first instance to their tax base, because that will improve political accountability, that'll improve transparency, and that will generate this virtuous circle that I think is so important.
Interesting. I mean, just the last thing, this morning I had a chat with Pappy Murray, who's an ad agency boss with Joe Public, but of course he's a purpose champion. He's driven the cause of we must have purpose, right? And I speak to him about national purpose, and he made the point that only Bhutan, of all the countries in the world, has got an actual purpose and intention as part of their philosophy as a country, right? And so I bring that up because service delivery is not a purpose. That would be something you ought to be doing. How do we integrate purpose that is then driven by the leadership of a metro to its citizens so that they buy into a common vision? And I know that may not be part of your research, so maybe
that's an excellent point.
Yeah,
that's an excellent point. And the purpose must be, expressed as the prosperity of the locality, of the city. And the key point coming from what you've just said is that part of this social contract is the business sector. Many of our metros don't talk to the private sector. They're suspicious of private companies. They're also big taxpayers, right? So there have to be many conversations between political leaders, officials, and the business community to ensure that there's better alignment between their plans, there's more responsiveness to their service requirements, that they have special status. Those big taxpayers, they have special status in being able to call upon the metro to sort out when their water breaks down, when their electricity. I mean, the recent issue in the High Court in Joburg, right? Astonishing. Collapsing water leading to the suspension of court proceedings. We need our key stakeholders to be talking to each other much more regularly and to be responding to each other's needs.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, now just to end with, we've now had a situation where the consequence of no water is you have obviously people now having their own boreholes, and the one borehole went too deep and it's caused a mess with the Gautrain. So an entire leg of the Gautrain from Rosebank to the city of Joburg is now out of order for at least a week. I mean, it is just bizarre.
Astonishing. When people do their own thing, go their own ways, or not talking to each other or consulting each other, it's shocking how the city can collapse.
Hopefully we'll talk about the city's rising sometime in the future. Professor Ivan Turok, thanks for your time. Distinguished Research Fellow in the Equitable Education and Economies Research Division based at the Human Sciences Research Council. That's the HSRC. So much to consider from that conversation. This is the National Pulse. So what moves the National Pulse for you today?
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1998, 500 grams of sugar cost about 3 Rand. Now, it's about 20 Rand. There's nothing sweet about how the cost of living has gone up. But even in times like these, Outsurance is committed to saving you money on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 for a quick and easy way to save. Let's hear what Rosemary has to say about the saving on her 2019 Ford Figo.
I phoned into Outsurance to get a quote. They were super efficient, super quick. I'm saving 421 Rand a month. I'll stick my neck out and tell them to phone Outsurance.
Enjoy life-saving services like Help It Out with 24/7 access to panic assistance, roadside assistance, and home assistance with just a tap on the app. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. Limits apply. T's and C's online.
Hey, listen up. With our Blue Sky offers, you can get your dream Ford with our optional service plan, and our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Think extensive dealer network, genuine Ford parts, and express service. Visit your trusted Ford dealer for the complete Ford ownership experience. Limited time offer while stocks last. T&Cs apply.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's get back to that story that we so struggled to connect with my guest about. It concerns the issues of the Ukraine and the negotiations taking place around it, and the Ukrainian leaders saying nothing goes on without the Ukraine being involved in it. We have with us now Professor John Kiger, who is a former research director at the Department of Politics and International Studies at the University of Cambridge. Prof. Kiger, finally we can connect, right?
Oh, good to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Right. Okay, so maybe just give us context in terms of, yes, there's a problem between the Ukraine and Russia. We know that's been ongoing. But very importantly, the negotiations that are taking place by various parties, maybe more so since Donald Trump's pronouncements about the other day, there will be a deal. But in fact, I think he said something like the Russians will retain any of the land that they took, any of the Ukrainian land they took, and the Ukrainians will not be part of NATO. So it is in that context that negotiations are taking place, right? What happens next?
Well, nobody's quite sure what's going to happen next, because one of the significant things about Donald Trump is that he's largely unpredictable. So what is going to happen is that the Americans have decided that they will negotiate directly with the Russians, as you pointed out. They will cut out the Europeans, the European Union, or European nations in general, including Britain, and they will cut out Ukraine. So it's going to be, it looks like, a USA-Russia negotiation. And that's what's worrying everybody at the moment. The whole of Europe is in a state of shock after, and it's gone into a sort of panic mode. And people are actually saying that it's going through the sort of various stages of grief that people go through, from denial that Trump would ever do this, anger that he's done it, and finally depression that he has done it. And that's the state of Europe at the moment.
And what has been their response? Because I understand that as they, besides being infuriated, they are meeting today in Paris, right?
Yes, they're meeting. President Macron has called together not all of the European Union members. It's only the significant ones, those who are known to support the idea of continuing to help Ukraine, even if the United States is no longer involved. And it is including Britain, which is very significant because, as you know, since Brexit, technically Britain is no longer part of the European Union's pacts on various aspects of defence. It's still a member of NATO, of course, but the EU has invited Britain to take part in these negotiations, emergency ones today.
What's then likely to come out of it? Because I suppose part of that, maybe as you answered the first part, is that yes, you mentioned the unpredictability of Trump. But on the other hand, many of these countries you refer to, by and large, are allies of the United States. So the fact that Trump literally unilaterally does what he wants, what does that do with the relations between Trump and these European countries you refer to?
Yes, that's the big $64,000 question, because nobody really is quite sure. I mean, Trump negotiates, as he explained in his book, The Art of the Deal, he negotiates in a very transactional kind of way. So he does all sorts of things contextually to frighten the people he's dealing with into various strategies which give away their weaknesses, and then afterwards comes in and actually strikes the deal. And some people suggest that that's what he's actually doing in relation to Europe. Europe has been underpaying for years and years and years its part in NATO, the collective defense and security for the whole of Europe. And the Americans have been paying for it. And they've been warned, the Europeans have been warned time and again, not just by Trump, but by Obama and by everybody going back to the 1960s, John Kennedy even, that they should be paying more. They should be paying at least 2 to 3% of GDP on defense, and they're not. And that's what might be going to happen now. The Americans are going to say to the Europeans, okay, that's enough paying for us. Over to you, get your checkbooks out and start building some more defense in order to protect Ukraine, if you wish, and yourselves against whoever you think.
So, it's not fair to ask you to predict the future, because, none of us can really do that. But however, what's likely to finally happen outside of posturing and these political debates? There is a war between the Russians and the Ukrainians. What's likely to finally happen?
Well, this is my view, but I think that what is going to happen is that there will probably be a peace, at least an armistice, a sort of ceasefire that will occur this year, no doubt. The second thing is that the Americans then will say, we're not going to police this deal between Ukraine and the Russians. It's up to you now, Europe, to step in, provide troops along the ceasefire lines, and to provide the backup that you need in order to do that, because it's out for us. They're not going to be out completely. America isn't leaving NATO. It will still probably exercise what's called Article 5, that is, in the event of a NATO country being attacked, then it would come and side with them. But in the short term, and probably the long term, Europe is going to have to pay an awful lot more. That is why defense stocks have gone up dramatically on all the stock exchanges across Europe this morning.
Okay, perfect. I'll tell you what, let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time, and let's see how accurate we all are in this real big issue. But maybe just the last thing, right? Before I let you go then, Trump has already made the point about the Ukrainian membership to NATO being not feasible. And that also, I think, has caught many people by surprise, right? Do you attach any significance to that?
Yes, I think a lot of European leaders were muttering silently under their breaths that it would be very difficult to integrate Ukraine into NATO. For all sorts of very complicated defense reasons. And so I think that is just becoming a reality, and Trump, as often, either puts his foot in it or stands on the right truthful point, and he's probably got that. I think European defense leaders will agree with that quite a lot, and in the end it will have an arrangement with NATO, but it won't be a full member of NATO.
Okay, an arrangement is the way to put it. Prof. John Kiger, thank you for your time, former research director of the Department of Politics and International Studies at the University of Cambridge. Much appreciate that. Just time to play out a couple of sound bites of yours, or maybe some quick ones. Here we are. Do keep them up to 30 seconds.
Hello, Ashraf, your team and the listeners. In terms of let's make South Africa great again, one have to define what great mean, or in what context is great. For me, pre-1994, South Africa was great because I was safe at my home with my parents. 2, everybody I know was employed. In fact, companies were sending messages with their employees, please bring in 5 more workers. So for me, for that, South Africa was great. I'm a black African person, by the way. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I am certain that your view is going to garner a huge response. Is that caller right? I would find huge difficulty agreeing with that. Because yes, it was safer, but at the same time, many people were locked up in prison. So you could walk the streets, but there are many people who couldn't live in those suburbs at all, and so on and so on. And you have to, when you talk about greatness, I mean, rule of thumb, a country that works, let's call it that. And a country can't be working if 80% of that country at that time were effectively oppressed. It cannot be working. It can be working for some people, and there are some unintended benefits that may occur, but overall, one cannot say that a country is great because of that. But I'm sure you have a response on that, isn't it? Let's get the news. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Minister Swartz dismisses claims of fire trucks standing idle, and court sentences a man to 5 years imprisonment for defrauding RAF. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good afternoon. Deputy Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, Bernice Swart, has dismissed reports that a number of fire trucks have been inactive for several years and are sitting idle. Earlier today, the Deputy Minister visited the Centurion Fire Station to inspect the firefighting vehicles currently being stored at the Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality. Swart says that the 9 vehicles which are currently being stored there are earmarked to be donated to municipalities who urgently need them after the transfer process is completed. She says the process to donate the vehicles already began in November last year.
These trucks are direly needed by our municipalities, and we accept that. And it is for us, because we are wanting the MOU to be signed to give the donation so that it goes through. And I think that at other instances, when things are happening, people might not have understood clearly that for these trucks to actually go into circulation and to work, it must go to a council meeting, because it's not just an ordinary donation, it's a donation that must go into the asset register.
A corruption case against the ANC's Amatole Regional Secretary Stembaletu Terisondutu has been withdrawn at Mthatha High Court in the Eastern Cape today. The charges relate to their irregular awarding of a contract awarded to Big Event Boy for their supply and delivery of cleaning equipment for 1 year, valued at 10 million rand by Muma Municipality, based in Butterworth in 2017. Total accused persons in this case are 17. 2 have since died. Ndutu says he is relieved that the state decided to withdraw the charges against him and his colleagues.
Yes, we are vindicated that after 8 years of coming to court, 4 postponements, that today were vindicated. We were patient with the process because we are law-abiding citizens. So we had to be patient with the process. We participated in the process, but we knew at last that we were going to be vindicated as it happened today. So I'm happy, I'm elated, I'm ready to go back to my organization and participate in making sure that the organization is strengthened again.
The East London Regional Court in the Eastern Cape has sentenced a 59-year-old man to 5 years direct imprisonment for lodging a false road accident fund claim. In January 2016, Solomzin Dikandika submitted a claim stipulating he was involved in a motor vehicle accident while he was travelling from Elliot towards Gala. Dikandika further divulged that during the time an oncoming vehicle approached him, which when he tried to avoid the accident when his car overturned. In the aforesaid accident, Ndikandika sustained injuries. Eastern Cape Hawks spokesperson Avele Fumba says the court further declared him unfit to possess a firearm and there was no point for a fine in the matter.
During the claim processing, RAF picked up discrepancies between documents that were submitted by Ndikandika and the police. RAF repudiated the claim and referred the matter to the Hawks for thorough probe. A comprehensive investigation by the Hawks revealed that, through misrepresentation by Ndikandika, RAF nearly suffered a loss of more than 1.6 million rand. Ndika made numerous court appearances until his sentencing by the East London Regional Court on 14th February 2025.
KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Human Settlements, Siboniso Duma, says 12 portions of state-owned land around the eThekwini Metro have been identified to build houses for the victims of the 2022 floods. Thousands of people were left homeless. Others have been sheltered in temporary residential units, while some rebuilt where their informal houses were washed away. Duma attributed the delay in the construction of the houses to disruptions by leaders who mobilized some communities to stop certain contractors. He was speaking at a media briefing in Durban.
We are aware that there are leaders who are meeting with Ratepayers Association and individuals in communities as part of mobilizing them against the building of houses in certain areas, and it's something that we must fight upon. This is tantamount to attempting to introduce Group Areas Act, which enforce segregation of communities, and we're not going to allow this as this government. We have seen the disruption of the construction of permanent housing, especially for the victims of flood that ravaged KZN in April 2022. As we move forward, we shall expose leaders who are not only mobilizing communities against the department, but are also violating the Constitution.
Former President Thabo Mbeki has congratulated the newly elected African Union Commission chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf and his deputy ambassador Salma Haddadi. Mbeki says he hopes that the new leadership will tackle pressing challenges facing the continent. Yusuf has taken over as commission chair amidst growing calls for ceasefire in the eastern DRC, dire situation in Sudan and terrorism in the Sahel region. The Djibouti diplomat has vowed to take the AU to the greater heights and at the center of driving transformation in the continent. Kylie Kumalo has more.
Former President Mbeki says he hopes the new AU leadership will strive for unity and development in the continent. Mbeki adds that the numerous conflicts besetting the continent demand urgent attention and resolution to ensure Africa's development can truly take off. The former president says AU Chair Yusuf and his deputy Haddadi must provide clear, decisive leadership necessary to ensure that the right policies and strategies are implemented for the benefits of all African nations and their people. Mbeki further says it looks forward partnering with the new AU boss and other key players.
Recapping the top story, Deputy Minister of Forestry, Fisheries, Environment, Bernice Swartz has dismissed reports that a number of fire trucks have been inactive for several years and are sitting idle. I am on Delambano for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Proteas carrying no baggage going into the Champions Trophy, according to Bavuma, and former Tour de France winner Thomas to retire at the end of the season. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Bedfordview is slow moving towards Van Buren Road due to a crash on the opposite carriageway. The N12 westbound in Benoni has a crash before Snake Road. The N12 westbound in Germiston has a crash before Edenvale exit. The M1 southbound slow moving through Crown Interchange towards Boysons, and the N1 northbound in Midrand slow moving towards Samrand Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction. Umgeni Road is slow moving through Springfield Park, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The N2 inbound has a crash before Baden-Powell Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and the N7 Jakes Hartwell Drive southbound slow moving at Voortrek Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The giants of French rugby, Bodopa Clare and Clermont Auvergne, are fighting for a massive victory to cement top 5 positions. This is the top 14. rugby the French way. Catch the huge contest between Batoy Union Peclair and Clermont Novagna on Sunday, 23 February at 10 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game, the whispers in the morning, as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady, and you are my man.
All right, let's talk TV licenses. Did you know that paying your TV license isn't just about legalities? It helps fund local productions and creates jobs in the entertainment industry. That means more epic dramas, exciting sports, news that keeps us all informed. So, question, when was the last time you checked yours? Visit, here's the website, www.tvlic.coza, tvlic.coza, and make sure you're up to date. After all, it's your screen, your story. Hashtag, your screen, your story.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's talk about a killing that certainly made the news all throughout the country over the last day or so. With me is Dr. Faisal Suleiman, who's from the South African Muslim Network. In fact, he's the chairperson there. Dr. Suleiman, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you for having me, Ashraf, and good day to you and the listeners.
Much appreciated. Now, you do know that in South Africa, crime-ridden South Africa, it's not unusual for people to be killed. It's not unusual to be killed, in a potential hijacking or robbery of sorts. It's not unusual. But this case seems to be very, very different. Firstly, the person who's been killed, and I've seen the video, it clearly seems like a hit and nothing else, just directed at that one person. His name is Mohsin Hendricks, number one. Number two, he's of the Muslim faith. Number three, he's publicly professed being gay, so homosexual. And number four, he's publicly professed himself as this gay imam, right? All that put together has created this hodgepodge of different emotions that's come through. So let me put it to you. What do you make about what has happened regarding the killing of now the late Imam Mohsin Hendricks?
Ashraf, yes, thanks for helping us to maybe shed some light here. So what we know is this individual was killed, ostensibly, and now it seems to have been corrected that he was in Port Elizabeth or Gqeberha to officiate at a same-sex marriage, which has turned out not to be true. But notwithstanding that, for whatever reason and by whomever, is, as you've said, it's murder, it's wrong, it's unacceptable, and it needs to be condemned in that respect. The fact that he's Muslim, the fact that he's gay may or may not be relevant. It may or may not have been a factor. But clearly, even if it was, extrajudicial killings, even in an Islamic state, for whatever reason, even a capital crime, are not acceptable. There's law and order, and there's due process, and there's no wishy-washy about that. No matter where you are in the world, there has to be due process.
Well, I mean, again, to make the point that in South Africa, sadly, killings are not uncommon. They happen all the time, right? But it's clear that it has touched a nerve in the broader Muslim community to the point that two significant organizations, the Muslim Judicial Council, predominantly Cape Town based, and the United Ulama Council, which is an umbrella body of which I think the MJC is a part of, saw fit to issue a statement. Why do you think they had to do that?
Partly because there could have been the notion that he was killed because Islam does not allow same-sex marriages, does not accept that as acceptable. And therefore, in case there was the illusion or social media speculation, etc., that this had to do with that, I think preemptively, and I think also, Ashraf, it goes towards history about how things are usually attached to the Muslim community. If I may use an example, about a year and a half or so, there was a self-confessed Jewish man in Durban who attacked his neighbors who were pro-Palestinian. He attacked the home, he killed a woman, he put the husband and 10-year-old daughter in ICU. And he said, I did it because I'm a Zionist. And of course, he's now, I think, either facing prosecution or whatever. And these were pro-Palestinians. There wasn't a reaction to say, well, the Zionist community, the Jewish community are all responsible for this. Mm-hmm. But as we know, especially in the United States, if there's a mass killing and it's a lone wolf, it's a white Christian person who goes and massacres black people in a church, it's not Christianity, it's, this guy was deranged. When there's a Muslim who does something, automatically it has been framed that way. Perhaps there's geopolitical reasons behind it, that it's Islam that is this,
but,
and
but
this is the belief
that
Muslims have.
But do you think it has? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe even if it has or has not, the very fact that the Muslim organizations saw fit to respond as Muslim organizations and not, community leaders suggest that they felt there was a need to either defend a position or to clear up their own stance regarding, people who are gay, but also acting in a position of Muslim leadership, which sounds like a contradiction to many other people.
No, it doesn't. Ideally, you're right. Muslims shouldn't take ownership because the fact as they are is that a person was assassinated in Port Elizabeth, period. It could have been, a business deal for all we know. However, given the way things have been portrayed, given the way Islam has generally and Muslim have been portrayed, perhaps preemptively, perhaps they shouldn't have. And then you could have had all sorts of rumors floating around and said, well, he was killed because Islam, is against gays. And that also needs clarity, the sin and the sinner. So perhaps preemptively, given what has happened in the past, especially since 9/11, these organizations saw fit to say, hold on, this, before you ascribe this to Islam or to Muslims, or because he was a as you said, self-evident or come out of the closet gay Muslim, that let's just preempt this.
Yeah, I mean, interesting point you bring up, because so what then is the position regarding people who are gay or homosexual in the Islamic faith, number one, and then number two, when a person who has that lifestyle then also takes up a position of leadership, that means being an imam, what then is the position of the Muslim community or Muslim law regarding that?
Okay, so the first disclaimer, Ashraf, is I'm not a theologian. I'm not a priest or a Maulana. However, my understanding is that absolutely 99.99% of scholars all over the world since the advent of Islam have said, and the Quran is quite categorical, that homosexuality, lesbianism, or same-sex relationships are not permitted in Islam. That is the sin. Just like adultery, just like gambling, consumption of pork, consumption of alcohol, not permissible. Okay. That does not mean that we say that gamblers, fornicators, etc., are now a target of Muslim community or need to be discriminated against or need to be harassed in any way. So Islam does not permit same-sex relationships. Are they gay Muslims? Yes, they are in South Africa and all over the world. Should they be targeted, etc.? No. It's differentiating between the sin and the sinner. You asked a question about let me give a very simple example. A Muslim who drinks, listen, I drink alcohol. I know it's not permitted. This is my weakness. I drink like any other Christian faith or whatever. I am committing a sin that I know is a sin. I'm sorry about it. Drug addict, whatever, is one aspect of it. The other is making right what, in our opinion, or in the or what God has proclaimed in the Muslim holy book, the Quran, is not permissible, and therefore now that is a separate thing. That is now you are making what God has forbidden right. That is a completely different
All right.
issue.
So perhaps in that point, right, and this is, and I've seen lots of comments and social media posts in various communities. There is a sense that because the Muslim faith basically forbids the practicing of same-sex relationships, right? That, and then this person then purported to be this imam, so the leader of a lifestyle that is very much against the Muslim faith. That he was setting himself up to be eliminated, and many people were sympathetic to his to
That's
what
just
happened.
nonsense.
Many people were sympathetic, but many people almost said, and I've read this, like, what did he expect? He got what he practiced. He was a self-proclaimed target.
Yeah, whoever does this is like ISIS and anybody else who doesn't know their faith. There's absolutely nowhere in either the Quran or the example of the Prophet Muhammad or the compilations of what he said, what we refer to as the Hadith, that there's any justification for any of this or any extrajudicial habeas corpus type of vigilante killing. And this is what this was. This was a vigilante assassination, killing, etc. There's no basis for it, not in an Islamic state, not in our secular democracy.
All right. So we just the last thing because of time. One is, so I see the statements from the religious bodies, the Muslim Judicial Council and the United Ulama Council, both saying very similar things to you, right? That you've said, right? So I take it that nobody has claimed responsibility, right? That's one. But perhaps here's the last thing you can answer: is what is the Muslim position then in dealing with a person who practices a lifestyle that is contrary to the Islamic faith, in particular the issue of being gay? I mean, what's the position? Yes, the religion forbids it, but in terms of day-to-day dealings with that person, what's the official position?
It's the same they are with other major sinners. Nobody stands at the mosques and says, "Oh yes, you're a fornicator," to someone who's in the casinos, so you shouldn't pray here or have anything like that. Absolutely not. Yes, you may frown upon the sin, and there is no question about that. It's regarded as a major sin. But as a doctor, I have LGBT, transgender, gay, lesbian, all sorts of patients, notwithstanding my religious belief, and we treat everybody as absolutely equal and to the best of our abilities.
And that's where we leave it. Dr. Faisal Suleiman from the South African Muslim Network. He's the chairperson there.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Borussia Dortmund and FC Union Berlin are both searching for a decent position in the top half. They have a big battle for maximum points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund FC versus FC Union Berlin on Saturday, 22 February at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So the world's crazy. In this case, where you have the city of Joburg, and we discussed it last week, no water for a week. And of course, it's been an ongoing problem in that city for at least a year or two. And many say it's going to get worse in the entire country, right? So naturally, people who want to spend money on JoJo tanks, which allows them to store water, and those who have more money are going for the borehole route, which effectively means, going off the grid, so to speak, right? But then you get a situation, and this is just bizarre, that somebody does that in the Rosebank or Killarney area, so I understand. As a result of what they did, there's been an impact on what happens below the ground, okay? And the impact in this case has affected, of all places or things, the Gautrain. So the Gautrain has experienced leaking that's got onto the track, so I understand. As a result of that, the stations between Rosebank and Johannesburg's Park Station has been closed, and I understand it could well have gone for a week. So much to consider coming out of that position. Let's get the thoughts of Dr. Mqini Twaku, who's the MMC for Community Safety in the city of Joburg. Appreciate you joining us on the National Pulse. Hi.
Oh, hello, Ashraf. Good afternoon to yourself and your listeners of SAFM.
Thank you. So you've heard my intro. I mean, is that largely accurate, that somebody had to dig for a borehole and they messed up?
Yeah, you see, Ashraf, this problem, if you go to my timeline, I did actually raise an awareness around December when all of a sudden we were, the people on the ground, they've actually sent me pictures of a person drilling right in the middle of the CBD. They're doing, this borehole. And then I was like, and then I had to send this TRU, the technical unit, quickly to go and check if the person had all the necessary, authorization, what is called a way leave. Mm-hmm. Because get a way leave from the city. What does the way leave mean? It means that all the departments have been, consulted. Your city power, your city water, your gas, Igoli gas. Because if you drill down there, you might hit a pipeline or you might damage a cable. So there must be a proper survey in terms of, if you drill in that location, you're not going to hit a pipe or a gas line and all of that. So when we got there, we found that these people, they don't even have it. And then we've ran a campaign at the beginning of December to tell the people that before you can do any borehole, whether it's in the public space or it's in your private area, you need to apply to the municipality. Then we have to look at our drawings. In the location where you want to do this, this drilling, are there any servitudes now? So with this one, it looks as if this individual did not get any approval from the city. It looks like because they would have picked up on the drawings that, look, you cannot drill up until, let's say, 50 meters because that's going to hit the So it looks as if, but you must get an approval. And also you must get a water use license from the Department of Water. Yeah.
And that approval you refer to, does that include, so you mentioned the word servitude, right? Does that include, homes that there's no servitude issue, which could not be the majority of homes in the city of Joburg?
You need to be careful because remember, you even at home, because you might have maybe underground, you might have a switch line which is going right under, or you might have a cable that is going really under. I'm very interested because I'm waiting for the report now, because even at the homes, you should be having a utility drawing that will show you in terms where are these cables running for the house, from the cable coming from the city power.
Okay, so basically
outside.
You're saying home or not, you do need permission. You need clear permission before you actually and how many people are doing that? That means out of 100%, what percentage of people are adhering to that and actually getting permission to try and get their borehole sorted out? Something I understand why they're doing so, because as you know, there's a serious water crisis in the city of Joburg.
Yeah, there's a guy there, and I even got another tip off that there was someone who drilling a borehole, and then I sent those guys from JPD. And then when they got there, they did get the approval from from our guys from the JPD that they can go ahead and do that. So it is. I mean, they can get that approval. It's just to appraise us in terms of what are you doing, so that we can warn you that, look, you can't do that. I mean, for example, let me give you an example. There's a big Sasol line which is going underneath your FNB. And those areas, you can't just drill there because you're going to hit a big, this pipeline for actually this is Sasol. It's for us that to take it into confidence that, first thing first, you must do, the water testing, check if there's water there. They call it a hydro, it's a hydro study, just to check if there's water there. Secondly, you must give us the coordinates that you are going to drill in this area. Then we take those coordinates and go and look from the Joburg Water. They will tell you that, no, it's fine, we're clear here, we don't have any pipeline. You must go to City Power. City Power say that I've got a cable running out there. So if you want to drill, you must drill, let's say, about 10 meters away. You can't drill, that's what we're going to hit.
Okay, I understand. So here's the last thing then. So regarding this person now that's where the problem has been caused, and this entire leg of the Gautrain has been shut down for at least a week. What's the position now with that person? What steps do you take against that person?
Look, it's my guys are working with the province now. The guys from JMP, they're working with the province and the city as well to really to get all this documentation, to check if they did apply for the way leave, if they actually got the permit at the end in terms of to do that. So I'm just waiting for that report. I don't want to preempt anything because we want myself and the province to really speak with one voice. But the way that I'm looking at it, the person did not have any approval or any permit to really. Okay.
So in a case where the person does not have an approval, right? You don't know whether the person has or hasn't, but let's just say not even this person, anybody. If they don't have approval, what do you then do about it?
Yeah, look, there's going to be a lot of, fines that are there as well. I mean, you can be arrested for damage to the infrastructure. I mean, that damaging the infrastructure of, Gautrain is a very serious, it's actually close to treason because, what if, you would have done a lot of disaster, which in the train derails and everything. So it's quite very serious. Quite a serious one. Many people that have been arrested, we've taken others that they're actually going to be going into court. And what we even went to do, we've even confiscated the drilling machines from the companies, because these companies also, Ashraf, they're supposed to have known, because they know that they must get a permission. They must ask the owner, did you get a permission? Can we drill here? And where's the drawing and all those things? You just come in and...
So we're on to news time. So who's been arrested? Very quickly.
No. At this point in time, there's still some investigation which is going on. I said to my guys that I think by the end of today, I should be getting this report so that I can give you a proper detail.
But I thought you said somebody has been arrested.
No, I've got a couple of people. There are about 2 people that we have arrested for illegally drilling before.
I understand.
Before.
All right.
The guy, the people from, I don't disclose them, but the one was in the city, the one was around Fortsburg.
Okay. Not the same issue, right? Okay, I got that. Let's leave it at that. Thank you for your time. That's the MMC for Community Safety in the city of Joburg, Dr. Mqini Tswaku. There you are. If you're drilling for a borehole because you're so desperate, don't be that desperate that you actually break the law, because there could be serious problems. How do you stop a train? Well, now you know. Just drill, as has happened to the Gautrain. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Zondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says the government is working with provinces to help ailing municipalities to pay their debt with Eskom. Deputy Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment Bernice Swartz has dismissed reports that a number of fire trucks have been inactive for several years and are sitting idle. And South Africa is gearing up to host the G20 Foreign Affairs Ministers meeting later this week. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Rose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview has a crash before Giluli's interchange. The N1 southbound in Fourways is queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive. The N12 westbound in Boksburg has a stationary vehicle at Atlas Road, and the M1 southbound has heavy traffic towards Amonde. In KZN, on the N2, sporadic community unrest north of Pongola, so expect delays as well as diversions during the protest, and please do check before travel. The N3 westbound has a stationary truck before Cliffdale exit. In the Free State, the N3 northbound has a truck crash near Vilgetol Plaza. Traffic is moving via contraflow on the southbound carriageway, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Chumi, what are we going to talk about now?
We're going to start off with cricket this hour, where Proteas captain Themba Bavuma insists that the Proteas will not be under pressure heading into the ICC Champions Trophy. This is despite being on a 6-match winless run in the ODI format. The Proteas get their Champions Trophy campaign against Afghanistan in Karachi on Friday, and they will definitely look to build confidence within the squad, with many first-choice players having arrived in Pakistan. And Bavuma, though, is quite confident that the team can restore confidence and belief in the squad that propelled the Proteas into the 2023 World Cup semi-final.
I think, looking at the run that we've gotten here to this point, it hasn't been a case where, it's been our full strength team that's been up against the other teams. In saying that, you expect that the guys who have come in to still be able to maintain that standard. I think with this group, from a confidence point of view, I think I believe that is still up there. And really for us as a group now, it's for us to connect strongly again, like I always say, to remind ourselves of how we want to play our cricket. But really back ourselves to play to our best. That's what we know. That confidence and knowing comes from how we've performed as a group. And I mean, this is a group of guys who've been with each other for the past 4 or 5 years. So, look, I don't think there's any type of baggage really that we come in here as a group looking inwardly, and really looking forward to playing our best cricket.
Meanwhile, in football, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso has again expressed disbelief at having to play 7 matches in the space of just a month. The Brazilians secured a place in the Nedbank Cup quarterfinals after beating amateur side Mfeni Home Defenders yesterday, thereby adding another fixture to their already congested schedule. It's not the first time that Cardoso has cried foul over the frequency of games, but he has defended the wholesale changes at the weekend as preparation for what will be a grueling few weeks to come. In athletics South Africa President James Moloi has confirmed that the Federation will hold its board elections on the 31st of May. Moloi, who is now in his 4th and final term as ASA President, has announced his intention to run in the highly anticipated elections. The nomination process for candidates vying for the position will officially open on the 1st of March.
The elections of Athletics South Africa is the 31st of May, so they're going to start in the 31st of May. We have been announced, we have sent the circulars to all provinces, so we are going to open the nominations maybe next week, and then they will be allowed, so everybody's allowed to do that in the provinces.
In cycling, former Tour de France winner Geraint Thomas will retire at the end of the season, but it was his 2018 triumph in cycling's greatest race, the Tour de France, that he particularly cherishes. Thomas, who came 3rd in last year's Giro d'Italia, will tackle the Tour again this year in a supporting role for his British team, hoping to maybe try to win a stage, but just enjoy the race overall. And finally, in golf, former Ryder Cup captain Paul McGinley believes a deal between the PGA Tour and the LIV Golf League could be announced before the Masters in April. The PGA Tour has been in protracted negotiations with LIV Golf's backers, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, in an attempt to find an agreement on the structure of the professional golf. Now, LIV Golf was launched back in 2022, and it has some high-profile list of players, including the likes of John Rahm and Dustin Johnson, amongst others. Well, that's it. It is a wrap from my side for now.
Okay, so that Champions Trophy is coming up. It's imminent, right?
Yes, it is coming up, and I'm hoping the Proteas will have their ducks in a row.
But, that's like a bad word to use when you're talking cricket, because you don't want to have too many ducks in a row. So let's leave it at that. More sport in an hour.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Borussia Dortmund and FC Union Berlin are both searching for a decent position in the top half. They have a big battle for maximum points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund FC versus FC Union Berlin on Saturday, 22 February at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to those numbers with Makwe Masilela, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Good to chat to you as always, Makwe. We got local and global markets second up. But first up, let's tell me about Amplats.
Yeah, afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Yes, Amplats, although PGM prices remain subdued at present, the guys are optimistic about the long-term outlook, and the parent company, Anglo American PLC, set out to join this year as the final divorce date with Amplats. They will still retain 19% for now, and their production is up 3%, sales volumes up 4%, but both dollar basket price and rand basket price decreased by 11% and 13% respectively, negatively impacting revenue, which fell by 13%, with the overall financial performance falling by 19%. That is your EBITDA, and the profit as headline earnings per share down 40%. And Ashraf, U.S. markets are closed today. Geopolitics remained in focus, with reports that talks on the Russia-Ukraine conflict will begin in Saudi Arabia this week. Apparently, officials from Kyiv in Europe have been left out of the discussions for now, and the imminent threat of reciprocal U.S. tariffs has receded until April, but the risk that they might include levies based on value-added taxes in other countries was a major worry. Oil prices were little changed as investors eyed developments on a potential Russia-Ukraine peace deal that could ease sanctions disrupting global supply flows. We see Brent crude is up 0.1% at $74 a barrel, and gold traders waiting for further details on Trump's tariff plans, which could escalate the global trade tensions. And the yellow metal is up 0.6% at 2,897, but platinum is down 2% at 980. Europe is positive, but the local pulse is down 0.6% after going up by 1% for the whole of last week. And we've been dragged today mainly by our resources, which are down 3%, and the rand fell almost 0.7% against the US dollar, impacted by weaker commodity prices. The rand is now trading 18.45 versus the dollar, 23.22 versus the pound, and 19.32 against the euro.
Perfect. Let's leave it at that. Makwe, we'll chat again tomorrow. Thanks for that. Right. We'll take all your calls in a few minutes' time. Before that, we're going to look ahead to the budget speech.
Amidst misinformation and disinformation, where can we find reliable news? Turn to radio, your trusted source for truthful updates. For over 3 decades, we've upheld integrity as a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct. Count on us for news you can trust. Say no to fake news. Radio, keeping it real since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters. Tune in, trust, and stay informed.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
I suppose people in the financial sector, Wednesday is their cup final day because it's the budget speech, isn't it? So that happens from 2 o'clock. And of course, SAFM will cover that entire speech and reaction live. Listen out for that from 2 and then beyond that. We'll be chatting about water issues with Water Can's Dr. Friedel Adam about the overall crisis in that city of Joburg. I believe water's come back, or has it? We'll find out. That comes up just now. But with the budget speech now imminent, let's pick up an issue that is important from a position of healthy living. The Healthy Living Alliance is looking to the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, to increase the sugar tax levy from its current position of 10% to 20%. So why the jump? 10 to 20, 100% increase. Angelica Grimbeek is with me, the Healthy Living Alliance's Nutrition Program Manager. Angelica, appreciate your time and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And of course, most of us, we always go to a budget speech and we hope there's no increases in anything. And you're saying increase the taxes with regard to certain aspects of sugar. Tell me why.
Absolutely. So, a sugar tax does sound quite scary and daunting, especially to someone that might not understand what the health promotion levy, or many people call it the sugar tax, is. So this health promotion levy, it's been around since 2018. And as you mentioned, it's been implemented at a rate of 10%. So the Healthy Living Alliance and a lot of public health advocates and a lot of researchers and specialists know that the health promotion levy or any sugar-sweetened beverage taxation should actually be at the recommended rate from the World Health Organization of at least 20% and higher, so that we can really see the positive effects that it can have on obesity, diabetes, hypertension, cancers, and many other diseases.
Okay, so help me understand the connection between increasing the tax from 10 to 20%, and the 20% will have a healthy impact on healthier living and against things like obesity. Tell me, how does that connection work?
Sure. So, the rationale behind something like a health promotion levy or a taxation on sugar-sweetened beverages is to decrease the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages. So, we know many of the sugar-sweetened beverages that are drunk, so things like sodas, fizzy drinks, energy drinks, even some of the milk drinks that are available. So these drinks, of course, they have added sugar in them, and there's plenty of research that shows that a high amount of sugar intake is very bad for our health, and it can actually put us at risk for developing things like obesity and non-communicable diseases, and especially something like diabetes or hypertension and other cardiovascular diseases. Recently, actually this year, there was a paper that came out. We're looking at many different countries, and it found that 1 out of 4 cases or new cases of diabetes can actually be attributed to an intake of sugary sweetened beverages. Okay. So what this taxation is doing is really trying to make sure that we, as consumers, drink less of these dangerous drinks.
Okay, so the plan is that increase it to such a level that it's unaffordable, both from the, let's call it producers or manufacturers, and as it filters down into different products, right, to the point where me as a consumer, I'd be reluctant to buy. That would be the plan, right, if I can get what you're saying. What then is the alternative?
Yes, so absolutely, that is basically to increase the prices of it so that there is less being bought. And just to note that has actually been the impact of the health promotion levy as it stands. As I mentioned, it's been implemented at a much lower than recommended rate of 10% since 2018, and it has had positive impacts on consumer behavior, where people have in South Africa started drinking less sugary drinks and actually going for alternatives such as water and healthy alternatives. The thing is also another positive impact is that the manufacturers of these sugary beverages, they actually reformulate their products, because the taxation works at a rate or at a threshold of 4 grams. So if 1 liter of these sugary drinks have 4 grams or more sugar, then they get taxed. So of course what we saw is that, these companies don't want to be taxed. They have profit as their main motive. So they decrease the sugar in the sugary beverages to just below 4% so that they wouldn't have to be taxed on these. So there are positive impacts on consumer behavior as well as reformulation, which is a very big positive.
So I would think one thing is asking the Minister of Finance to listen to your recommendation and up it from 10 to 20%. That's one thing. I would take it that going into the budget speech and beyond, there's a lot of lobbying that's already taken place from your side. How effective has your lobbying been then?
I mean, it has been effective. I mean, at the end of the day, this taxation does exist in South Africa. So that is a big win. And of course, we know that there is a lot of other risk factors that come into play when we're talking about diseases like obesity and diabetes. So really something like a health promotion levy needs to be part of many different interventions working towards reducing these diseases. But with that being said, of course, there has been issues with increasing the taxation and also making sure that the taxation is being increased yearly based on annual inflation. So that is really why we are pushing, again, the government to really prioritize health in this case, remind them of why the health promotion levy exists. It really is to protect South Africans. I mean, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, obesity, all of these are killing South Africans, and more people are becoming ill with these diseases. So if we look at the long-term costs of that, I mean, the healthcare system cannot afford to carry on treating patients like that. And also, I mean, any kind of preventative interventions that are long-term within countries are really necessary. And this has been an effective intervention in other countries, and it can really be very positive and continue to be positive in South Africa.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I'll tell you what, when the minister does pronounce on the sugar tax, there's no question about it. Because of this conversation, I will think about you and the Healthy Living Alliance. Much appreciate your time, Angelica Grimbeck, the Healthy Living Alliance's Nutrition Program Manager. Thanks for your input. Let's get to your calls. Yeah, we need to up the audience engagement right after this.
Borussia Dortmund and FC Union Berlin are both searching for a decent position in the top half. They have a big battle for maximum points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Dortmund FC versus FC Union Berlin on Saturday, 22 February at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
All right, so listen to this, okay? 47-year-old Abner loves OUTsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance made for older cars. For his 2006 Opel Corsa Utility 1.4, he only pays 253 rands a month. With OUTsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Now, top this up with a motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Yeah. Get saving with OUTsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. So if that's you, then make a note. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP T's and C's and information online.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, it's the National Pulse. What for you moves the National Pulse? You have your own opinions. Lots of comment about the comments I made about, well, that march and the protest that spoke about make South Africa great again. And my personal objection is like, what do they mean by that? It really offended me. But you tell me your thoughts. Romeo in KZN, go for it.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SFM listeners. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm very well. Go for it. What's your point, Romeo?
Yes, I just want to talk about let's make South Africa great again.
Yeah.
I wanted to believe that earlier on there is a caller who spoke about it, but that was already on my mind. I wanted to talk about the time in which South Africa was really great. Everything was intact in terms of the economy was running smoothly. I think that was the era of the first term of former President Thabo Mbeki after he took over from the late President Nelson Mandela. Mm-hmm. The economy was running smoothly to an extent that even on GDP, on the collection of finance, the tax SARS, they used to have some surplus. And I remember at one time people asking to say, where are you taking this money when we have got surplus? Don't you put aside? And I think Trevor Manuel was helping Zimbabwe when they were having a serious problem just to help them.
Okay, I think you've made your point very clearly. You're saying that period after when Thabo Mbeki took over, so 1999 onwards, many may suggest moving up to that period of, was it 2007 in the Polokwane Conference, that for you is the best period of democratic South Africa. Absolutely. Yeah? Okay. Got that, Romeo. Thanks. Eunice in Joburg, go for it.
Yeah, I want to talk about this Muhsin Hendricks that was shot over the weekend. Now, first of all, this is a police matter, and it should be left to the police to investigate, because all sorts of people alluding to whether this is a vigilante killing or whatever, I don't think people can come up with whatever they want to. Just to say merely that when Thabo Mbeki was president, he himself pronounced at that stage when the same-sex marriage bill was going through, he made a public statement that this is un-African and people should go to the courts. That's just for the record. But my concern, however, is with media coverage. The media, I've been monitoring media who are going crazy of this particular story over the weekend. Yet, when Grayson Bear in Durban decapitated a woman there because she was pro-Palestinian, hardly ever, the media ran with that story. Number two.
So why do you think there's been such interest? Because don't you think it does have a particular human interest story? It does.
Well, Grayson Bear decapitated a woman. Why didn't the media run with that story?
Well, are you saying I can't remember the details, but you're saying they never covered it at all? And of course, it's difficult for us to speak on behalf of the whole media.
I'll give you more examples. For example, a former member of the Jewish Board of Deputies, a lawyer, Venda Hurwitz, was convicted of spray painting people to all sorts of profanities at a march. She was convicted also. No media covered it or tried or attempted to interview her or whatever.
All right. But Eunice, let's go back to your issue that you raised. So, are you suggesting that a person of the Muslim faith who is openly gay, which goes against the tenets of the faith, as you've just explained, right, then becomes this imam, which is like it's almost double against the tenets of the faith, what makes him fit enough to be an imam when he's doing things that are wrong in terms of the faith, right? Then gets shot in Port Elizabeth, and the visuals suggest that it was a hit on the person, whatever the motives may be. Would you suggest that has got no interest in public interest in the country? I would be very interested in that.
I would be also, but I'm saying equally, why aren't the media interested in the other examples that I've given? I'll give you one more.
Okay, wait, you're giving, no, Eunice, I don't want to go to other examples. All I'm asking you is, in your opinion then, on this issue only, what should the media have done or not done?
No, my argument is, yes, cover it, but do not pick and choose. For example, lastly, only yesterday, a video came out. Trump is in the worldwide media at the moment. Yes, just last night a video came out on YouTube of Chief Rabbi Goldstein, who was saying the best leader is Trump and he supports Trump. Go and see the video, and I challenge you to bring on Chief Rabbi Goldstein.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm giving examples.
But Eunice, what I'm saying to you, but you need to understand this part. We are also, I can tell you now, for every 10 stories we cover, there's 10 we don't even touch because we don't have the time, okay? There's a space problem on all shows, on radio, on TV, and in print. I'm not suggesting that stories must be dropped or not. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying there are always other considerations that you must understand as a listener, as a caller, as a consumer of the media. The big question I'm asking you is that, Are you suggesting that the story doesn't warrant media interest of the type of prominence that it has been given? Because of what?
I will repeat, it should be covered, but equally other stories ought also, and the media should not hide away from the fact that certain issues, they somehow seem to be skirting away from reporting on some issues.
Point made, Eunice in Joburg. I wonder whether others would agree with him. By the way, on that same issue, let's get to some of the voice notes.
Good day, sir. I think that Imam definitely had a price on his head, and there's definitely people in leadership that was involved, because it was an embarrassment to the Muslim community, and those leaders couldn't keep face when they go to Mecca or speak to other Muslim countries that they go to, like Mecca and those places, and so they had to do something about it.
No, but when you say definitely, that means you're speaking with authority, like for sure. They may not like him, but to say that he had a price on his head, that means he was set up by, as you discussed, the imams, the broader Muslim community, the clergy, to basically knock him off. And you don't have any facts and figures about it. That is also speculation, and it's an opinion. I think there's a hit. I certainly saw the videos and the visuals that tells you that, but who ultimately was behind it, we don't know, and I certainly don't know, and you don't know either, right? Let's talk about the drilling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. The person you are interviewing, I don't think is the right person. What he's talking about, to me, it doesn't sound very clear. The people who surveyed that ball to be drilled there, they are geologists. They've got high-powered machines. They could have seen that where the water is supposed to be drilled, there are certain things that are running underneath there. They could have seen that already. So the only thing that is there is the city council, because they are saying he had to drill a ball without the consent of the council. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, but he's saying if they get consent, before they even give consent, they would actually check up the implications thereof. So he wouldn't be wrong in saying that.
Ashraf, South Africa was never great. It was never great pre-1994. It was never great after 1994, and it's still not great. South Africa must change their ideology to greatness. We need an ideology, or we need a culture that everybody can work towards, like the Americans have the American dream. Whatever that is, we need something similar to help us get over our past and to become great. South Africa has never been great. Matthew from Cape Town.
Thanks for that, Matthew. By the way, to a large degree, I would agree with you, Matthew, because, I speak often about a champion nation, from the Champion South Africa project that I head up, right? But what is a champion nation? It means when everything works for everybody, right? Now, clearly, that's not the case. It was never the case in apartheid South Africa. It has not been the case even 30 years into democracy. Absolutely not. But today, early on, and I mentioned it, I had a chat with Pepe Murray, and we spoke about this need for a national purpose, a rallying call that they must not use Donald Trump's Make America or South Africa Great. No, that's like really cheesy. But something profound that we can rally around in the same way we said, end apartheid. You know how we did that? Just clear, obvious, we understood it. End apartheid. So what's the complete antithesis of end apartheid in terms of where we are right now? Like complete change. That rallying call is important. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Government working on addressing Eskom debt, and SA gears up for G20 meeting. Good day to you. The Electricity Minister, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, says the government is working with provinces to help ailing municipalities pay their debt with Eskom. He met with the Free State MECs in Bloemfontein in the Free State to ensure that municipalities are able to meet their financial obligations to Eskom.
Collectively, municipalities owe Eskom now that the amount is breaching the 100 billion rands collectively. That's what is owed by municipality to Eskom, but also municipalities are owed by various categories of consumers, collectively over 380 billion rands. So this is an existential problem for both Eskom and municipalities, so we need to work together with provinces and municipalities to resolve this challenge. Specifically for the Free State, the municipalities here owe Eskom collectively about 26 billion rands.
The Deputy Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, Bernie Swartz, has dismissed reports that a number of fire trucks have been inactive for several years and are sitting idle. Earlier today, the Deputy Minister visited the Centurion Fire Station south of Pretoria to inspect the firefighting vehicles currently being stored at the Swane municipality. Swartz says that the 9 vehicles which are currently being stored there are earmarked to be donated to municipalities who urgently need them.
These trucks are direly needed by our municipalities, and we accept that. And it is for us, because we are wanting the MOU to be signed to give the donation so that it goes through. And I think that at other instances, when things are happening, people might not have understood clearly that for these trucks to actually go into circulation and to work, it must go to a council meeting, because it's not just an ordinary donation, it's a donation that must go into the asset register.
Judge Tokomalani Shidara says the trial of the Radzuma siblings accused of killing two leaders of Municipal Workers Union SAMWU in Limpopo over a VBS bank-related matter lacks progress. He says the three accused keep insisting that all state witnesses be called to testify at the trial in the Thohoyandou High Court. Simon, Percy and Abua Radzuma are accused of killing the two SAMWU leaders who were vocal against the Vhembe district municipality investing public funds in the now defunct VBS Mutual Bank. The judge elaborates.
Look, we must make progress on real issues, but we are spending time on issues that are common cause, which are unchallenged. This doctor, I don't think in my mind he's going to tell us who killed that person. His involvement in this matter does not even implicate them or involve them in any way whatsoever. But we must be mindful of the time that we should utilize fruitfully, like in this instance.
A female police officer accused of killing her son and his teenage girlfriends appeared in the Morabeng Magistrates Court in Sukmakan, Limpopo. The accused has been remanded in custody until her next court appearance next week. She's accused of shooting and killing her son, aged 25, and his 16-year-old girlfriend in a domestic-related dispute. The NPA's Mashudu Malabizang.
A police sergeant, Constance Sateko of Otoko Police Station, appeared in Morabeng Magistrate Court. She's facing 2 counts of murder. It is alleged that Sateke shot and killed her son with his girlfriend. The matter is postponed to 24 February 2025 for formal bail application, and the accused remains in custody.
South Africa is gearing up to host the G20 Foreign Affairs Ministers meeting later this week. South Africa has been clear that its G20 presidency is a valuable opportunity to place the needs of Africa and the rest of the global south more firmly on the international stage. Ditaba Sotetsi reports.
The 2-day meeting will focus on a number of issues in the run-up to the main G20 Leaders Summit that will be held in Johannesburg later this year. The gathering will take place under the theme Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability. As the world grapples with a myriad of challenges, South Africa will for the first time host the G20 Foreign Affairs Ministers meeting on Thursday and Friday this week. South Africa says Pretoria's priorities are clear.
The top story, the electricity minister says the government's working with provinces to help ailing municipalities pay their debt to Eskom. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Hoos.
In your sports this hour, Moodley to compete in Moto3 for 2025 Nedbank Cup draw tonight, and Sasha excited to help the Stormers. More details at 5:30.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady and you are my man.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston is queuing towards Elands Interchange. Northumberland Avenue southbound in Sundowner has a crash reported at Apollo Road. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash before Buccleuch Interchange. All lanes are open, and the N1 northbound in Centurion is queuing towards Old Johannesburg Road. In KZN on the N2, sporadic community unrest north of Pongola, so expect delays, diversions as well during the protest, and please do check before travel. And the N3 westbound has a stationary truck before Cliffdale exit. In the Free State on the N3 northbound, a truck crash reported near Wilgetol Plaza. Traffic is moving via contraflow on the southbound carriageway, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound has a stationary vehicle after Browning Road. The M7 Jakes Hadwell Drive southbound is queuing towards the R300 highway. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit, and Baden-Powell Drive in Muizenberg has sand reported on the carriageway at Coastal Park. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, I mean, here's an interesting thought. I made the point that those people, and I can say those who are Afrikaners, because I think that's what they stood for, who were protesting at the weekend in support of Donald Trump's position, in fact, thanking him, who made the point, picking up on Make America Great Again, where they had banners saying Make South Africa Great Again. And I was personally offended by that because, like, when was that again? Clearly they were talking about an era that was the pre-democratic era. That doesn't mean there are no flaws now, but like, and I know why they're doing so. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But it does get me thinking that, first of all, they were offside, but perhaps important for you, right? Has there been a period, I'm only talking the 30 years now, the 30 years of democracy, has there been a period, a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year period that we came closest to achieving a level of excellence as a country? I'd love to know when that was, okay? If you have a thought on it, we'll take your calls. 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, text, voice notes 0614 104 107. Keep it up to 30 seconds, please. And you can also use the option of tweeting it out. Just tag us on the X platform, SAFM Radio, and tag me, Ashraf Garda. We'll talk about the My Vote Count court challenge in a moment, but let's get to the water crisis we've been touching on all of last week. So let me tell you, I had no water for 4 or 5 days in my place in the northern suburbs. On Saturday, it all came back. Ooh, so we're all fine, I think. But I see on a couple of WhatsApp groups now, people are asking questions, do you have water, do you have water? Which suggests that it's not so clear-cut at this point in time. So what's the broader issue anyway, right, that led us into this latest crisis that seems to be an ongoing crisis or crises that we have regarding water, not just in Johannesburg, but throughout many parts of the country. With me is Dr. Ferial Adam, the Executive Manager of Water Can. Ferial, good chatting to you once again. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to all your listeners. Thanks for having me on your show again.
Thank you. So what has been your takeout, firstly, in terms of what has happened in this latest 1 week of what you call high and dry?
I mean, I think for me, it's shown the fragility of our systems, right? And that the fact that we've been talking about, we've been lucky that we haven't had more load shedding, because I think it would have impacted us even more. But the fact that when power went out, and it wasn't just one station, it was the Hector Norris, and then it was Eikenhof, and then it was Vereeniging, and then it was again in Vereeniging but Letabo, where all of them had power issues. And when that goes down, there's no pumping. So in some instances, yes, they can look at alternative power, and they should have looked at it by now. And some of it, they may not be able to, because the systems require too much energy for that. But it was just a domino effect. And it was also showing how linked our system is to electricity and how fragile our system. And what that means is that we have to start looking at our municipality as a whole in terms of the challenges we're experiencing with regards to water.
So first things first, when I'd spoken to the spokesperson for Joburg Water Joburg Water, she made the point that there's no crisis, and I'm quoting her loosely, there's no crisis because we said there'll be a maintenance issue, and we said we'll fix it up in a day, and we did fix it up in a day. Thereafter, there was a power outage, and that caused the other issue. But from our side, there's no crisis.
So the issue of this no crisis is debatable, and I think what I'm hearing is that from Rand Water they're saying it was a scheduled maintenance on the one end, and then there was the power cut. So I mean, I think that Rand Water is saying that they followed through and they did the maintenance in the time that was suggested, and then there was no control over what happened after. But what I'm saying is that, well, in a normal situation, if you have power cuts, you would have reservoirs that have storage that can then actually buffer the impacts to people so that you won't have large numbers of people and communities that actually have no water, which is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something we need to answer as well. I mean, it's easy enough for Rand Water or Joburg Water, whoever you spoke to say that. But the reality is that how can you have such a big city running when half of our reservoirs actually have leaks in them? And there isn't enough money to actually make sure that they get fixed.
So where do we go from here? I mean, and I'm quoting you from your statement saying, the water challenges over the past 2 weeks have been mismanaged with poor communication from Joburg Water and a complete lack of leadership from city officials. Explain that. I mean, there's a few words. Yes. Mismanaged, poor communication, and lack of leadership.
So I think one of the things, the simple things that could happen when you know that the power is going down is that we should have had better throttling of the reservoirs. So we know we don't like it, but it could have at least extended the amount of water for people to use during that period. In terms of the leadership, I mean, it took almost 10 days before the mayor came out and actually had a statement or made a statement. And I think during these periods, when people are really going through the thick of it, of no water, the anger's rising, people are so frustrated, we need to have constant communication. Unfortunately, that is what helps. So people need to understand what is going on. We need constant communication so that we can feel a bit kind of confident that things are happening. And that's where we said that there was where was the, when we talk about leadership, we're talking specifically now of the city of Joburg.
Now, so some people said, I mean, your complaint is it took the mayor 10 days to respond and then go on site. Some people were suggesting, why should he even go on site? Can't he just sit in the office and get the work done? What difference does a physical person have to do overseeing something when he's not the technical person involved in that?
Ashraf, to that, I remember a very interesting comment. I didn't agree always with the previous Minister of Water and Sanitation, Minister Mchunu, but the one thing he said to me, he said, you can't fix water from sitting in your office. You have to be on the ground with the people. And that is good advice.
Mm-hmm. How, ironically, by coincidence, the plan was to have the mayor of the city of Joburg in studio today, and then that got postponed at the last minute. So we'll probably speak to him next week, Monday, right? Just so that you know, right? So in terms of solving the bigger problem then, one is the urgent need. I think that's okay now. So, but the problem is, as you said, if there's infrastructure breakdown,
yes,
then it's a recurring issue. And I'd spoken to a guest on Friday whose name I forget at the moment, who made the point that, in fact, this crisis of water is a crisis that will stay with the entire South Africa for a long, long time. So what then is the solution to this crisis?
I think that's correct, that we are in a crisis for sure. And the sooner the city officials admit that, the better. And we will be having that for a few years. But one of the key things that we are saying is that let's not just say we're going to ring fence the money, because even the president has said it in his speech. We want to see how that happens and when that happens. So we have issued a petition to the Speaker of City of Johannesburg to table the petition at the next budget meeting, which is on the 26th of February, or the 27th of February, sorry. Mm-hmm. And maybe when you speak to the mayor to say, what are they going to do to increase the budget to Joburg Water and to ring fence the money for water and sanitation? And are they actually going to discuss it? Has it been tabled? Because that's our concern. We're trying to push for action instead of just having flat words being given to us and nice slogans.
Okay. And if the mayor is going to say what every other person in leadership has been saying across the country lately, like, we don't have the money.
Well, we've shown them that they do have the money. They are using money in the city offices where we've shown that, that 6 billion here and 9 billion there, where they don't really need that. In the mayor's office, they're using quite a bit. So we've shown them in our statement how they can reduce their budget. Besides that, they're going to apply for loans. The city of Joburg has applied for a few loans. They've got a loan from the World Bank. They've got a loan from the French. They're getting another loan now. What are they doing with all of that? The second thing is they also apply for municipal grants. And by the way, last year, the city of Joburg gave some of that money back. So they need to account for that. When they say they don't have money, they do have money. They have money when it suits them.
Okay, two things regarding communication. Firstly, short answers. You said, the communication has been lacking. What would be, effective communication for you?
So I think one of the things is to explain a little bit more. Don't say, oh, this reservoir is empty or this reservoir is low. We need to understand what that means for, explain the areas, explain how many teams you have in the area fixing things. Where are the bursts and the leaks that your teams are fixing? Those are the kinds of things we want to know and have a right to know as civil society.
And then lastly, just to explain maybe the role of Water Can. What exactly, I hear what you're talking about petitioning, but so that we're clear with communication. What does Water Can really do?
So Water Can is an advocacy group, an NGO, and we are an initiative of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse. One of the key things we do is we work nationally to monitor the quality of our drinking water across the country. So we have people across almost 1,500 people that, use our testing kits that we get from a lab, and they test the quality of the drinking water. But we also then use that to hold municipalities accountable. So that's the other thing we want is municipalities should publish the results from testing the quality of our drinking water, so we know it's safe or not safe to drink.
Okay, so I live in the northern suburbs of Joburg. Can I drink my water? Is it
Yes,
clean?
you can. In city of Joburg, pretty much the water is safe to drink.
Okay, now we know. Appreciate your time. In fact, the guest I chatted to earlier Friday, Keys has just reminded me, was Bulelani Ndebele, who spoke about the crisis around water for the entire country, not just Johannesburg. Well, that's all the more My Vote Counts, but they talk about the money that gets to the votes counting as well. Thanks for your time, Dr. Field Adam. We'll chat to My Vote Counts after this.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Dr. Nikki Alexander, Dr. Thomas Chamberlain, and Dr. Jack Hodgson form a dedicated team of forensic pathologists who try to work out how and why the victim died. This series sees Nikki investigate a murder that's a carbon copy of a case from her past. She soon suspects that the killings are personal to her. But who will believe her? Meanwhile, Jack creates tension when he finds himself aligned with a police complaints investigator over the accidental shooting of a girl by armed police. And a seemingly random killing in the remote countrysides leads Nikki and Jack into the dangerous underbelly of a criminal world. This is Silent Witness, Thursdays and Fridays at 10 p.m. Starts 20 February only on S3. Open up.
The giants of French rugby, Bordeaux Bethlehem and Clermont Auvergne, are fighting for a massive victory to cement top 5 positions. This is the top 14. Rugby the French way. Catch the huge contest between Bordeaux Union Bethlehem and Clermont Auvergne on Sunday, 23 February at 10 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's get to the other issue around My Vote Counts. So what does all that mean? Well, My Vote Counts. They've been advocating for all of us over the period, even before the elections, so that we need to know where funding comes from, right? So the Western Cape High Court heard the application by My Vote Counts today, which challenges, and this is important, the constitutionality of the Political Funding Act. The organisation wants the court to declare parts of the Act unconstitutional, arguing that in its current form, the Act undermines the right to transparency and accountability in political party funding. It's that big of a deal, isn't it? Let's find out more with Alicia Kunene, who's a researcher and spokesperson for My Vote Council. Alicia, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So let's get back to the point that you make, that the Act currently is unconstitutional. Explain that. Which parts of it?
Sure. In particular, we take issue with three factors. The first is the disclosure thresholds, is that the Act says that any donations which are under 100,000 Rand do not have to be disclosed to the public. We say that violates, we say that that's problematic, and that number is absolutely too high if there should be any threshold at all. The second is threshold says that you can annually donate, each individual can donate up to 15 million Rand, and we say that that's also way too high. In an upper limit needs to be revisited. And then in terms of the implementation, what Parliament has allowed for presently is to allow the president a discretion which is essentially unchecked and unguided as to determine the limits in the interim, and we say that that's far too much power to give to a politically connected and politically interested party. So those are the parts that we challenge.
I understand. So you're not happy with the 100,000, which is the current situation. You're not happy with the 15 million rands either. And then, of course, the president's discretion or unchecked positions around his discretion. How has that played out up to now? That means in practical terms, in practice up to now, what has happened?
Well, so before the election last year, there was a time where the electoral regime was amended in order to bring it in line with the Funding Act, and because in just a mistake of like poor drafting, there were actually no thresholds in place for a period of several months, and any there were no upper limits, and any donations would be permissible, and that's why in the last year My Vote Counts had to go to court on an urgent basis to require at least a restoration of the thresholds as they had existed. But by that point 3 months had already passed with no upper limit in place. The IEC says that it privately met with the parties and they agreed to honor the disclosures, but it's unclear to declare their donations they received to the IEC, but it's unclear who did not comply with that. And then since then, we are able to see the disclosures which were shared, but there's of course the speculation that some parties are not disclosing at all. But in any case, we say that even the ones we do see are a small that it's insufficient because the thresholds are too high.
So for a democracy to thrive, you need political parties to thrive as well, right? And for political parties to thrive, they do need funding because it does cost money. I wish it was not like that, but that's just the reality of them funding their own machinery, right? And this goes back to the point that, is the point about the transparency that you talk about, or really is the bigger point, which is that in political parties receiving funding to ensure that they thrive as parties and therefore democracy thrives, right, that the influence of those that support these parties, inevitably big business, wealthier business people, that influence is dangerous. Is that not the real issue?
That is absolutely an issue, but importantly, as much as funding is necessary, there's the question of whether or not we should be analyzing alternatives to the funding situation. For instance, whether it's possible for the state to actually be the funder of politics in a way that we are all aware of and can control. But it's difficult to have any of those conversations when we don't have enough information in the first place, because the question that's before the court isn't just about whether people have the right to fund political activity they think is important, but whether they have the right to do so secretly, and whether we as the people have the right to know where the political interests which drive our democracy are being sponsored from. Okay. And we say that,
So your focus is on the secrecy. There's a separate discussion about the ability to influence party thought, and that's another conversation. Where are you down the line with this? I mean, there's been this challenge today. What happens next?
So the challenge is the court set aside 3 days of argument, but we anticipate we'll only need probably only need one more day tomorrow. And then hopefully if we are successful and Western Cape High Court confirms that several aspects of the current funding law are unconstitutional, then we will have to go on to the Constitutional Court to have that to have that unconstitutionality confirmed, because the Constitutional Court were the ones who indicated that there's a right of access to information, that Parliament must set a threshold. But we say that the threshold and the regime they came up with is utterly inadequate, and so that's something that needs to be revisited again.
Possibly small gains, but the real victory may come up much later, if it does. Anyway, right? Alicia Kunene, thanks for your time, researcher and spokesperson for My Vote Counts. We'll certainly find out tomorrow, the next day, what happens at those at day 2 and day 3 of those hearings. Regarding the Western Cape, the NGO, My Vote Counts, their challenge at the Western Cape High Court, which challenges the constitutionality of the Political Funding Act. Do you want to talk about that, particularly around the issue of transparency? Who gives the money, how much they give, who do they belong to, political party or rather business, and do they do business as well with that political party in some way or the other, or when they become government? All important questions, isn't it? 5:30, here's the news headlines with Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The Minister of Higher Education set up a task team at the Nelson Mandela University in the Eastern Cape to deal with issues affecting students. The Electricity Minister says the government's working with provinces to help ailing municipalities pay their Eskom debt. And doctors treating Pope Francis for an infection have had to change his treatment because of what the Vatican describes as a complex clinical situation. More on that story and other news at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound in Alberton has a crash before the R59 Reading interchange. Albertina Sisulu Road in Besaidenote Valley has a crash near Lung Street. Main Road in Loneal has a crash near Lachlan Road. Barbara Road in Elandsfontein has flooding reported near Olifant Street. And Refinery Road southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Jack Street. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Ashburton has a stationary truck after Market Road exit. In Hillcrest, the M13 eastbound, queuing traffic reported at Gillets, and Old Main Road has a crash reported near Assaghai Road. Chris Hani Road westbound is queuing at the N2 highway, and on the N2 sporadic community unrest north of Pongola, so expect delays and diversions during protest, and please do check before travel. In the Free State, on the N3 northbound, a truck crash reported near Wilgetol Plaza. Traffic is moving via contraflow on the southbound carriageway, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the M7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is queuing towards the R300 highway. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, to me, let's talk cars, motorsport.
Yeah, we're talking all things motorsport, and great news from South African rider's side, Rushay Moodley, who's set to compete in the Moto3 World Championship this year. He'll be joining BOE Motorsports for the upcoming season, and he's been racing internationally in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, a key development series for young riders. He was a regular top 10 finisher and secured a podium at Le Mans, a competition known for producing future world champions. And he's basically following the footsteps of Brad Binder. He's also the first South African, or he's going to be the first South African rider of colour in the World Championship series. So South Africans are going to be entertained galore, specifically in each category, because Brad Binder is in MotoGP, his brother Darren is in Moto2, and now Moodley in Moto3. In football, the draw for Nedbank Cup quarterfinals is tonight at 6 p.m. There will be no restrictions or seedings to the draw, with the first team out of the hat to play at home against the next in the first tie, and so on. There's still some sort of confusion around the Royal AM situation, as it's still unresolved. They must still play their first round tie against Milford, and the winner is due to meet Sekhukhune United in the second round. The quarterfinal ties are due to be played on the weekend of the 7th to the 9th of March. Meanwhile, still staying with football, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso has again expressed disbelief at having to play 7 matches in the space of just a month. The Brazilians secured a place in the Nedbank Cup quarterfinals after beating Mveni home defenders on Sunday, thereby adding another fixture to their already congested schedule. It's not the first time that Cardoso has cried foul over the frequency of games, but he defended the wholesale changes at the weekend as preparation for what will be a grueling few weeks to come.
I do hope that we don't have injuries, and I do hope that the players that are injured really can reinforce us, because exactly they are in the point that is eventually in a couple of weeks they will start coming. So we had already Sales that today joined the team. We had Skivel that played also. And we hope that players that are just finishing their recovery process also can help the team in the future, near future. It will be a challenge because, as I spoke already, we have 8 games in a row during 1 month. This is something that should never happen in football. Obviously, it's not normal to happen. So until the FIFA break, we'll be playing every 3 or 4 days. It's not normal and not acceptable. It's very difficult to cope with. I really hope that players can sustain the effort.
Meanwhile, in cycling, former Tour de France winner Geraint Thomas will retire at the end of the season. The 38-year-old Welsh cycling star announced today, but it was his 2018 triumph in cycling's greatest race, the Tour de France, that he particularly cherishes. Thomas, who came third in last year's Giro d'Italia, will tackle the Tour again this year in a supporting role for his British team, hoping to maybe try to win a stage, but just to enjoy the race as a whole. And then in golf, former Ryder Cup captain Paul McGinley believes that a deal between the PGA Tour and the Live Golf League could be announced before the Masters in April. The PGA Tour has been in protraction negotiations with Live Golf's backers, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, in an attempt to find agreement on the structure of the professional golf. Now, Live Golf was launched back in 2022, and it has some high-profile list of players, including the likes of Dustin Johnson and the likes of John Rahm, amongst others. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now.
Wait, let me ask you this. There's been a listener who engaged with me, and here's the nub of it, just saying, can you confirm Sundowns playing 3 games in 72 hours? So, like, that's 3 in 3 successive days?
3, no. So
that's the question, is like...
Yeah. No, it's not. I don't think it's 3 in 3 days. From my knowledge, it's 3 in 7 days. So all in all, this month, I know that Sundowns is going to play 7 matches.
Okay. So 3 in 7 days is normal. 3 in 7 days is normal. That's like playing Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. Like, what's the big deal?
Because, yeah, I guess he's not used to it.
But
I was also looking
at 72
because
hours.
I was also looking at Pirates' schedule. They play 1 less, which is 6 games. They're going to play 6 games this month, but they're not complaining. Perhaps him as a coach is not used to this schedule.
But Sundowns are paying the price for being very successful, right?
Yeah.
When you're in many tournaments. There's this FIFA World Cup coming up and all that, so you play a lot of games.
They do play a lot of games, and I think it's something that they're used to. But that's what I'm saying. Perhaps the coach himself is not used to it.
Well, you know the story. If you want to really be unbeaten, don't play a match. So there we are.
Jazz lovers, the wait is over. Africa's grandest gathering returns on the 25th to the 26th of April at the Cape Town International Convention Center. Experience 2 nights of soul-stirring jazz, electrifying collaborations, and over 30 world-class artists across 4 iconic stages. Don't miss this unforgettable musical experience. Get your tickets now at ticketmaster.co.za. Brought to you by Independent Media, proud media partner of the Cape Town International Jazz Festival.
Right, 36-year-old Jay loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. For her 2013 Ford Figo 1.4 Ambiente, she only pays 400 rands a month. Now, with Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million rands. Now, add even more value with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get savings with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. SMS CAR to 43187. You got it? CAR 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's, and information online.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
I will take all your calls, your WhatsApps, and your text messages all in the next 5 minutes, hopefully even less. Let's get, however, an update on the SAFM market update, which comes up on, 6 to 7. Jimmy, what's moving markets today?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. U.S. markets are closed. We're going to reflect on what's happening on that side of the world. Asian markets had a bit of a weird kind of day again, and our currency starting off the week on weaker footing. But we'll give you those numbers in a moment. For now, what's coming up on the show is we're going to continue the conversation that you started around the developments happening with the Gautrain. We're going to speak to the Gautrain Management Agency directly to get a sense of the impact this has had on their business and what the disruption means for business from an operational standpoint. Then we're also going to reflect on Anglo-Plat's very interesting special dividend that they've put out, quite a significant special dividend announcement. Craig Miller, the CEO of Anglo American Platinum, joins us to take a look at that. And then we've got a conversation with the team at Herbert Smith Freehills around their latest M&A activity report that suggests that more than 60% of the value of mergers and activity deals that have taken place recently have taken place in South Africa, or at least the 2024 deals in particular. We've also got a conversation as part of our tech feature with our tech specialist around EVs and the increasing demand or increasing attractiveness that's coming through from the EV space. And then, because it's Monday, we're going to wrap up the show with a personal finance segment. We're going to be taking a look at tax-free savings accounts. It is tax season. We're going to be looking at the impact that those tax-free savings accounts can have on your pocket, given that we are, I think, about 11 days away from a financial year end for some people, for most people as well, especially for individual citizens. So you might want to take advantage of some of those tax-free or tax benefits that you have. And given that it is budget week, we're also going to be taking a look at our budget expectations. We're going to start building up those expectations all the way through to Wednesday. We've got that special budget show on Wednesday as well, where we will unpack the budget speech all afternoon, so that's something to look forward to this week. But we're going to start those expectations early as today. Before we get to that, as I said, we have had some interesting movements on the markets front. Resources not doing so well today. Bit of a mixed bag if we look at Asian markets. Hong Kong down, Shanghai up. The Nikkei in Tokyo was slightly in the green, about 6 basis points in the green, which isn't much of a gain there, but it did finish out in positive territory nonetheless. The ASX in Sydney was down about 0.5%. If we look at European markets, they had a fully green day from their perspective. The CAC 40 up about 0.1% with the DAX in Germany up 1%. The FTSE in London up 0.33%. As we said, US markets are not open for trade today, but we did see that the Nasdaq had a good close last week while the S&P closed out flat. If we look at our own local markets, resources dragged us down 2.4% in the red. Industrials up 0.5%. That didn't make a difference. Financials were down 0.25%, so 0.25% down there. As a result, the all-share was down 0.33%. The top 40 was down 0.33%. And if we look at currencies, they didn't fare much better. The rand weakening against all of the major currencies. It's sitting at 18 rand and 42 cents against the US dollar, sitting at 23 rand 21 cents against the British pound, and €1 will cost you 19 rand and 31 cents. 1 Australian dollar, 11 rand and 73 cents. And anyone looking at a Bitcoin at the moment, 96,580 odd dollars a Bitcoin, around 1.77 million rand. A quick look at those commodities prices before we go might give us a bit of an idea as to why we had a weaker resource counters day. If we look at those commodities prices, platinum and palladium holding above $1,000 an ounce in each case, 1,003 or 1,004 odd dollars an ounce for either commodity. If we look at the price of silver, that's at about $32. If we look at the price of Brent crude oil, $74.79 a barrel, and gold firmly at $2,900 a fine ounce, about 0.5% higher there. So commodity prices not really doing much, but resource counters absolutely suffering on today's trade locally. We're going to dig into these and unpack these a little later on. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, perfect. Can you enjoy your shows 6 to 7? Jimmy, and then followed by Sport with Michael Abramson, 7 to 8. So lots to consider here and to look forward to on SAFM. I'll get your calls after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Ever since Uspilion won 5,000 rand, 5 dawa on Wheel of Fortune, he only wears white push-in sandals. White, Baba. And he owns 10 identical pairs. And before he did not even know the Queen's language. Now, Kalabo, wow. Chance, let's watch Wheel of Fortune weekdays, Monday to Friday at 7:30 on S3 and see how one spin changed Spillion's life and how it can change ours as well in just one day.
Reigning African champions Banyana Banyana are gearing up to defend their WAFCON title in Morocco. Dr. Ellis and the girls want to deny neighbors Lesotho a moment to shine. But Mehaladito believe their game plan is too great to stop. This is the international friendly. Experience the Southern African Derby, South Africa versus Lesotho, on Saturday, 22 February at 12:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 2. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Lots of comments on that imam, the gay imam who was killed in PE or Qabecha over the weekend, right? So here's another comment from Saya, I think it's Saya Pierce-Jones, who's a journalist and activist within the PSC, saying, in a statement, Muslims for Progressive Values South Africa said that Hendricks' work inspired followers around the world to return to their faith. Much like conservative Christians in Jewish worship spaces, queer followers are often rejected and isolated from their communities, being told they are not worthy of the faith or forgiveness. Countless have abandoned their faith altogether due to the prevalence of homophobia. Now, Hendricks was unapologetic about portraying an interpretation of Islam as a peaceful religion where all are welcome. Hendricks served as the imam for the Al-Ghurba Mosque in Wynberg, Cape Town. Is it a so-called gay mosque? No. Al-Ghurba says there is no such thing. They are merely a faith collective that do not discriminate against anyone regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. Interesting, another perspective on that issue. And let's get to some of your calls. Chaka in Bloemfontein, go for it.
Hi, Ashraf. Ashraf, I'm just reacting to this demonstration by the Afrikaners. I think, we all know that what they mean by make South Africa great again. I think the people that were participating there are your usual good for nothing who would not succeed under any circumstances. The fact of the matter is that most Afrikaners who have been in business ever since 1994, they have actually increased their wealth manifold. That explains why there's such an inequality. Ever since 1994, the inequality has grown up in South Africa. Income inequality has increased so much that, precisely because those that were rich got even richer and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So the issue of some, people who could not make it coming to say that they are simply appealing to race. They say they are appealing to a race-based system that in the past they used to get opportunities because of their race, not because of their achievement.
Okay, and that's how you interpret it, as many do as well. Okay, Chaka, thanks for that. Yeah? Okay, got that. Thank you. Here's a question, Ashraf. How do we email you? We'd like to expose misconduct, fraud, corruption. Oh, my goodness. Misconduct, fraud, corruption, discrimination, racism in the town of Clan William, Afrikaner supremacy, Sake Kamer that think they own the town. Authorities are incompetent in doing their job. It's a massive story. We'd like for all of South Africa to know the truth about this. Thank you for great radio. My wife and I listen most of the day or daily. Well, wonderful that you listen in. The email address is studio@safm.co.za. You have that? studio@safm.co.za. Right, there's more thoughts from you via WhatsApp. Please keep the WhatsApps up to 30 seconds. It helps us to actually have a flow of more WhatsApps as opposed to less. Okay, that's the main reason why. And we think you can make a point in 30 seconds.
Good day, Ashraf and your team there. I'm hearing this conversation and how everyone is angry about this water social thing. And people from Joburg and Pretoria, let me just give you that one example. I'm mainly from Eastern Cape, Northwestern Limpopo. At our rural area, when we go home, there's no water there. We drill our own boreholes, and it's a norm. And it's been like that for decades. So this thing is not a Joburg thing. It's a South African thing. Like in general, like we talk about, for example, ending pit toilets. Which infrastructure, if you don't even have pipes, in the rural area is going to end this thing? Let's not confirm this thing to Joburg. In general, there's no water in South Africa here. There's no infrastructure to talk about here. This is Leonard from Northwest.
Well, I agree with you. In fact, I made a point last week that I think there's a focus on Joburg now because when you're talking about the most populous city in the country, then there's a huge economic impact as well as a social impact around it. But it doesn't mean others don't. In fact, the guest that I had on Friday made the point that there's a crisis of water in the whole country. Listen to that podcast because we covered that, the entire country. On the other hand, I think in specifics, it's something that I think we've chatted between myself, Keys, and Chemba to say, hold on, we need to try and identify certain communities, and therefore we leave it to you. Maybe just drop us an email, studio@safm.co.za. Identify, let's see if we can focus on some specific problems around water in communities and amplify them, because I think we absolutely must. So I think it's a point well taken.
Afternoon, Ashraf and the SAFM listeners. This is Alfred Gama at Bizana in the Eastern Cape Province. Ashraf, South Africa was great before 1994 because there were a lot of jobs, and the security was so tight, and there were and our defense was so strong. Thank you, Ashraf and the SAFM listeners. This is Alfred Gama at Bizana in the Eastern Cape Province.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Alfred. Well, it's a democracy, so we allow all different voices. I totally disagree with you, but that's my opinion. I think security was strong. It was so strong. There were thousands of people who fought against apartheid who were also in prison. Just think about that, okay? Marty in Nelspruit, go for it. Oh, I think we just lost him. Let's get a further comment in a moment. Here's another one on the same tone.
Good evening, Ashraf. This is Derek from Mhlanga. Make South Africa great again. Why don't we look at it as a non-racist statement? 30 years ago, when democracy came into place, which was a wonderful thing, unfortunately the ANC took over, and in 30 years they broke everything, every state-owned entity. We'll all agree, whether you're white or black, that the ANC has broken this country in every possible way. So why is it wrong for a group of people, regardless of color, to suggest that we get South Africa back to what it used to be, and to a world-class country again? South Africa has the ability and the potential to be the best country in the world, but it has been mismanaged by the ANC.
Well, you know what? By and large, I agree with your sentiments. You know, if you listen to the show, that I speak about building a champion nation so often. It's something that I'm invested in, so I'm on side with you. And yes, I think that period of 1994 certainly, I mean, it's a wonderful time to be South African, maybe even the 2010 World Cup as well, right? But to think even then we were world class is incorrect. We were not great. We had elements and potential to be great. So we are not. But to make your point about the protesters, the point of departure is those protesters who spoke about make South Africa great again. They were carrying, many of them were carrying the old apartheid flag, and they were singing the old full destem. So, besides other things. So maybe there's a clear symbolism attached to that, which I think maybe you need to reflect on. Right, there's more comment. There's another one, I think, on a similar issue.
Hi, it's FM. I think the best period was when Nelson Mandela was in charge. I mean, the guy didn't even take a salary. His whole salary was spent on government programs. And then after that, it just slowly went down, and then it's crashed.
Well, I mean, there's no question we're certainly not the country we were then. And it's difficult for anyone to defend it. I won't. I love my country, but there's a lot that's wrong. A heck of a lot.
Hi, Ashraf and South Africans. It's Eddie from Wondersrest. You know, I don't know what does it mean, making South Africa great again, because we'll have to get to know from which period South Africa was great and which period South Africa was not great. Because you might say it was great during apartheid. Okay, there are things that happened. It's okay, it's fine with that. It might be maybe people refer to the Mandela Mbeki era. Because during Zuma, nothing was great. It was just corruption. And then maybe it was Cyril Ramaphosa. Are we doing well or are we not doing well? So we'll have to be very specific, or we can come up with another slogan. I don't think this might be misplaced somewhere. Thank you very much. But I agree. Let's make this country great. Maybe again it's a problem. Thank you very much.
Well, I'll agree with dropping the word again. But I also agree that it may be, I talk about it, let's make it world class. But it is worth reflecting. I don't want to reflect on, I'm not saying I don't want to. You can reflect on it, but I certainly don't want to talk about including any of the apartheid era as part of greatness. It just can't be, okay? But it's worth reflecting from 1994 onwards, which were the years that we had the very best of a democratic South Africa. We don't have it now. But which were the years? It could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then why? And I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that. There's more on that.
Hi, Ashraf. It's time in Islander. South Africa was not great before 94. It was better than what it is now. At least people were going to bed with food on their stomachs. Being free does not mean the rest should go and suffer. Because it's only the elite that is benefiting from this so-called freedom. It was better because people were getting employed. Nothing is happening now. What is freedom about that? What is freedom about going to bed with empty stomach? What is freedom?
Well, you know what? Your point is interesting. I mean, first of all, I disagree. But at the same time, as I disagree, you remind me of one thing that we all must have. We must have empathy. And you see, what you've just spoken about is not a political answer. You've given the reality of you and your family. And for many people, it is just about that. It's not about whether the Nats are in power, the PFP or the ANC or in Qatar or whoever. They're not even interested in that. They're just interested in themselves and their families and their homes. And in that, we must concede there's been massive shortfalls in the last decade or even 20 years. And that's a concern. So whereas I don't necessarily agree with you, I have huge empathy for the way you've just expressed what you've just said, right?
Hi, Ashraf. I would like to concur with the previous speaker here on WhatsApp saying apartheid was better because he was safe and all that. If someone can pose a question to you right now as a black person and say to you, which one will you choose between apartheid and be employed and be able to feed your family, and choose to live under the so-called freedom and being unemployed and be unable to feed your family? Which one will you choose between the two there?
You see, that point has been amplified. There's more comments on that. Let me just see in the last minute or so that we've got here's something totally different.
Hi, Ashraf. The MK party does not employ its members as admin workers in parliament. That's what they do. Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, I'm not sure what you meant by that, but fine, point taken. Here's the last one.
Good evening, Ashraf. Just on this on the issue of the people who were protesting, the pro-Trump supporters that were protesting, or that were in front of the U.S. embassy, and then they're saying they make South Africa greater. It's just a longing for the era of apartheid where they enjoyed white privileges as the minority, so they want a return to the dark ages of apartheid. That's all that they're calling for. So they are blatantly racist people, and then we cannot take those people seriously.
Okay, maybe here's the last one.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, those 14 soldiers who died in DRC, among us, those soldiers, there was Marine, there was Air Force, and the Ground Force. To my surprise, you send Air Force, but there is no helicopter, there is no jet. You send somebody to a situation, a Marine, but there is no ship, there is no boat, there is no water. Does it make sense to anybody there? What was the Air Force doing there without a helicopter, without jet, without anti-air or whatever? Norman from Brixton.
Okay, Norman, thanks. Last one, Ashraf, it's time you got off your apartheid nonsense and agree that the ANC is a destructive virus. You are a journalist, are supposed to be impartial. Stop throwing apartheid down my throat, from Tim in KZN. Tim, I don't know what you mean, but you cannot be impartial towards apartheid. You can only be partial, supportive or not supportive of it. And I'm not, if you listen to me carefully over the period, I'm very critical of so much of what's gone wrong in our country. And 90% of that has got to be blamed on the government. And you can work out who the government is. So maybe listen to that. That's the show. That's the National Pulse. We'll do it all again tomorrow, but the Pulse of the Nation continues 24/7. You can tag us anytime using that hashtag, the National Pulse, on our Twitter platforms, right? Let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again.